Welcome back into the Double Down Sports Show. It is Dustin and Dylan Dupree. The 2026 NFL Draft has just concluded the other day, so let's dive into all the draft recap, talk about the rookie outlooks, and we'll probably go over some lays or just in terms of the slate today, kind of go over some of the games and talk about the playoffs of some of the sports that are going on right now as well. So let's get into it and double down. Welcome in. It is a fantastic time in especially the NFL world with the draft just happening.
Yep.
A lot of excitement and a lot of cool prospects to kind of go over. Some not so great landing spots and situations that certain guys are kind of in. And that's kind of what we're here to run down and talk about with you guys here today. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to my partner Dustin. And what are your thoughts on the draft from this past week, I should say?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of consensus from the Dynasty community, fantasy community in general, that this was one of the more underwhelming classes that we've had in the last probably 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. I wasn't insanely high on this class, maybe ever. Some of the deeper guys, I feel like you're kind of maybe taking lottery tickets in Dynasty. I feel like it's very top heavy. That's always kind of how I felt, and now it feels even more so to me.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'll say this: the one thing you never want to do too early, I think, in Dynasty is give up on the draft class.
No, you don't want to write off players.
Yeah, and especially more specifically, especially when you have picks, you never want to just write off a class because you never know who's going to come out of that class, where they're going to come. I mean, look at guys like Amon-Ra. I remember in our Dynasty, I'm pretty sure he was late second round.
Yeah, he was late second.
Yeah, pretty sure he was like the 209. So in a 10-team league, that's back end second round. So you never want to give up on a class too early. You definitely want to do your due diligence, do your homework on as many people as you can still, because you don't know what situations might turn into. Certain guys got different draft capital than maybe we expected. Jeremy Bernard, we kind of thought maybe second, third round. I'm pretty sure he went second round, right, to the Steelers.
Was it second?
I thought it was maybe second or third, either way.
Yeah, it was day two for sure.
Denzel Boston, a lot of people thought might go in the middle to late first. He ended up being a early second to the Cleveland Browns. So a lot of, like you said before, a lot of interesting landing spots. But again, I would just say if you have picks, don't give up on the class too soon. It is underwhelming. Don't hear what I'm not saying.
Especially at the running back position.
Correct. But there's still, even then, there's still, stabs that you could try to take late on certain running backs in this draft, or, third, fourth, fifth round in Dynasty community, late second round. You might be able to, guys are worth stabs if you have picks. If you can't, that's also if you can't move off of those picks. If you don't like anyone, if you've done your homework, you've done your research, you don't like anyone in this class, you're kind of just sitting there like, man, I'm not feeling anything. No one really stands out outside of maybe the top 5 or 6 guys.
There's a few stabs even I like, and I feel like I'm one of those people that in general with this draft class, I'm out on a lot once you get past the first 6-7 guys, not to be that dude.
No, but again, it goes back to what I'm saying. If you could still move, someone in your league will likely covet somebody at some spot. When that draft happens, when those picks are on the clock, people are intrigued in trading for certain picks. You might have a conversation with one of your league mates about an offer or two for a certain pick. If you're at the 106, 7, 8, something like that. If you want to trade out of it, try to get a better player, look to do what you can with these picks, not just in the draft, but in terms of moving the picks as well. 100%. A lot of these picks aren't necessarily valued highly, but you could try to pair a 26 first and a player, try to go get a 27 first, or just upgrade.
I would probably try to do that right now.
Yeah, or just upgrade a position, and even then.
Especially if you're back half first for 26, not that there's not guys you might like, or that might hit at that range. There
Somebody's
definitely are
going to be
guys.
there that will
But-
probably do something.
But personally, if I had a pick range like 7 through 10, if I didn't need tight end help or I didn't like Sadiq's landing spot to the Jets, I would maybe trade out of that and try to get a 27 like you're talking about. That might not be a bad move.
Yeah, and a lot of people may not even move that 27. So if you can't do that, definitely look to try to upgrade a position potentially. Maybe trade.
Yeah, and
maybe trade a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3. Someone like a Wan'Dale Robinson and a 26 first. Try to trade up or trade to a different draft if you don't like certain people in this class.
Yeah, I feel that. I think earlier today you were even saying that if you're a running back needy team in this draft, like if you're somewhere in that like middle late first range, it might benefit you to trade back a little bit to try and get a later running back. And then
a lot of those late firsts are going to end up potentially being wide receivers unless people are willing to take stabs on running backs a little earlier, because outside of the first 2 running backs taken in this draft, that being Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price in the first round, there was 0 second-round running backs.
Yep.
And the third round, I'm pretty sure
it was a little lighter as well.
I'm not even sure there was
maybe 1 or 2.
Maybe Mike Washington. He might have even been 4th round though. I know that the next running back
was Jonah Coleman.
Jonah Coleman was early 4th, and a lot of people are intrigued by him. I am as well. The landing spot is very interesting because you do still have RJ Harvey, who was drafted last year, as well as, J.K. Dobbins, who's likely going to lead that backfield this coming season. The issue arises with each player. There's an individual issue. You almost seem those, which makes it such a weird backfield because you have Dobbins, who clearly the lead back there, but has injury history. RJ Harvey had opportunities to do well and did at times, but didn't really take over the backfield job. And now you see them draft another running back in the 4th round in Jonah Coleman, who I believe is a much better runner of the football than RJ Harvey.
Sure.
And with Dobbins only being, I believe, on the 1-year deal, you kind of have Coleman there with the ability to take
he could take the job and run with it for sure.
Correct. And I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be a 20 touch a game guy, but you could definitely see a double-digit touch.
I think him being a 20 touch per game guy is more likely than Harvey being a 20 touch per game guy.
Sure. I agree. I think no matter what, like let's say Dobbins goes down,
15 to 16 range.
If Dobbins goes down, I think Harvey, strangely enough, is the complement to Jonah Coleman rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and he might even still get some of the second down touches. It's not like they won't mix in both potentially. I mean, we'll see how it looks once training camp and the season starts.
The style of runner that Coleman is too is Sean Payton's going to utilize that, and he's a great pass catcher for his bulky size. He's only about 5'8", 5'9", which is pretty short for a running back. But we see that style of running back succeed lately in the league with speed. Jonah Coleman doesn't necessarily have that elite speed, but he has good enough speed, and he's 220 plus pounds at that 5'8", 5'9" stature. You're really getting a bowling ball there at that position, and you're definitely getting a good player for that offense specifically. Again, that's a player that is really intriguing to see where he goes in dynasty rookie drafts, because you could take him in the late first if you don't believe in RJ Harvey and you believe Dobbins is,
there's going to be a couple dudes I think this year that are in that. There's nobody after you get to like 5, 6, 7 in the first round. It's kind of you're taking shots at guys based on landing spot. Some of the talent is still there, and some of the talented guys might have dropped in the NFL draft.
Yeah, there are some guys that are a little more talented than others, but like to piggyback on what you're saying, from I would say maybe the late first, like 109, 110, and beyond, all the way through even to the 3rd round. There's all kind of dart shots.
Yeah, there's not going to be a consensus like, oh yeah, take this guy at 7 or take this guy at 8. Like,
no one really has the proper draft capital to be taken there, and if they do, it's a lot of guys like Denzel Boston, who was drafted after Concepcion. So guys most people are probably going to take Concepcion for the fact that, number one, the draft capital, and number two, he's just a better player, in my opinion, in general. Some people may not feel that same way.
Sure.
I feel that way. The other guys that were like Jeremy Bernard, pretty sure second rounder. That's another guy that, good receiver.
I'd be willing to take a shot on Jeremy. I think
the biggest problem is they have a very crowded wide receiver room now after trading for Michael Pittman. So you might see Jeremy Bernard end up being that third wide receiver on that depth chart.
How long is DK signed to them?
I'm pretty sure he signed with the second he got there. He signed some sort of extension. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember how many years, but I do know that they're now tied into all three of those receivers for the next few years.
Yeah.
So that's another interesting thing that could drop Jeremy Bernard just for the fact of his landing spot not being a ton of opportunity right out the gate to be a wide receiver 2 for his own team.
Sure.
The other guys that are interesting that are a little further down, but same kind of idea where they mean like Zachariah Branch, he may not be the talent or the draft capital, maybe that Jeremy Bernard got.
Yeah.
But or even Denzel Boston or someone like that. But the opportunity for Zachariah Branch is immediate. He walks into Atlanta likely being the wide receiver 2 there.
Yeah, behind London, and I mean targets wise, probably behind Pitts and maybe even akin to the running backs.
Sure, but at the same time, the opportunity will be there. And the thing is, they have Tua now at quarterback.
Oh yeah,
and Tua is, let's be honest, a screen merchant in a lot of ways.
Yeah, look how A-Chain succeeded with him,
Yes, and a lot of use of Zachariah Branch in his college years, especially last year, was a bit, a lot of screens. So you could see Zachariah Branch be getting a lot more value this first season than where he might be drafted. Yeah. I'm looking at Fantasy Pros ranking right now, and basically Zachariah Branch is ranked all the way in the 21 spot on their list for the rookies in 2026.
Yeah.
And you have a guy like Jeremy Bernard who's 6-7 spots ahead of him. There's not really much difference in terms of the crapshoot dart throw type of idea between the two of them, because neither are really elite prospects, neither are bad prospects. But it's just about at that point situationally, who do you trust more to get opportunity, or what team do you think has a better chance of utilizing that player to the best of their abilities? So again, you're getting guys like Chris Brazell. He could be wide receiver 2 for the Carolina Panthers.
He's
wide receiver 4 for the Carolina Panthers.
Sure.
So there's a lot of variance, I think, in this draft specifically. So it's one of those where draft capital past the second round, we'll say, doesn't exactly matter in this draft. The other thing that I think goes
not for our fantasy purposes,
correct.
For sure.
I think the other thing that maybe for NFL stature and guys staying around on certain teams for a certain amount of time or given chances, maybe that
how long
matters
they
based
might
on draft capital. But in the end of the day, the one thing you got to do with this class is do your homework, because there's a lot more, like we said, after the 108, you're really moving into a territory where Jonah Coleman, Antonio Williams, Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard, Nick Singleton, Chris Brazell, Katron Allen, Zachariah Branch, all these guys are worth a shot.
100%.
But if you
none of them are like for sure enough to be over
Correct.
the other necessarily. Sadiq might be the most for sure thing out of all of them, and he's not in a good situation being on the Jets. Like it's probably going to be akin to what we saw with Fannin last year on the Browns, which was still incredible. Don't get me wrong. Sadiq has that upside to be a guy that's a top 5, top 10 tight end throughout his career.
Yeah, just based on his physical attributes, I think as well. That's what kind of bolstered his draft stock.
Yeah, plus the fact that a lot of the other dudes in the class aren't really strong at the other positions. Like the running back room is in this class is very, not deep at all.
Very, 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 again, a lot of variance.
Yeah.
There's guys that you could end up seeing decent roles for, like a Katron Allen, a Nick Singleton in the next year, because they've landed, the two of them specifically have landed in spots where there's not really investment by the Commanders and the Titans in running backs that they look to long term. Krosky Merritt, of course, is young, but he's a 5th, 6th, 7th. I think he's a 7th round guy.
Yeah, I like Katron too. I liked his college career as well. I think him and Nick Singleton both went a little later in the draft, and almost I would have definitely expected. I would have thought at least they're day 2 guys. But
I think the highest they would have been probably was round 3, but I do think that round 4.
There's a lot of running backs in the league right now too, so I feel like
that's
the whole league allowed some running backs to slip. It felt like because of that, because a lot of teams don't need running backs, so they're like,
correct.
Why are we going to use a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd on a running back when we don't need one?
Strangely enough, a similar thing happened in a different type of situation last year, where you saw a lot of decent running backs get taken late, or guys that we were looking to take shots on.
Sure,
like
that's how you get the Jacoby Krosky Merritt 7th rounders.
Yeah, Brashard Smith at certain points last year was being talked about throughout Dynasty leagues. So there's just certain guys where you can still look at in this draft and say, okay, I'm willing to take a 2nd round pick and do a crapshoot on this guy because of the fact that if you need a running back more than you need wide receiver in this class, go ahead, trade back, because the running backs.
Unless you want to trade up to try and get Price, because Love is probably going to be impossible to get.
Love is, from what I've seen on Keep Trade Cut and things like that, the 101 is being traded around in this class, but it is a decently hefty price because Love's premium price is a little bit even higher than what other prices might be for running backs in the past, because of the fact that this class is underwhelming after the 1st round. So you're sitting there now thinking, wow, this is really the one guy that you're kind of for sure on in this class. And that kind of boosts, that
it would be
surprising more.
It would be surprising if Love didn't hit. You know what I mean? It would be shocking. Of course.
I don't know if there's one person in the Dynasty or in the football community that thinks Love is not going to hit. I think everyone thinks Love is, at minimum like a Darren McFadden.
Shit, the NFL thought the same thing with all the teams that were trying to either trade up to get him or the fact he went 3rd overall.
There's a lot of rumors with that, and the fact that the Cardinals ended up taking him definitely makes it interesting for their team in general, because of the fact that they have so now 4 running backs.
And they just signed Algier.
Yeah, and you got to feel like the one thing that means for that team is that Trey Benson is likely they've given up on him as a running back for them. I could see them moving on from Connor because he's older, but the fact he is older and a vet, and
it's a weird situation. I feel like too, where like with Benson, it's not like they were like, oh, we need to move on from Benson. It feels more just like, we have a generational running back that we could take here.
And I don't think that means Benson is a bad player. I just think that means they found a guy that they like more. Plus, I think it's a new regime there anyways.
I'd love to see Benson on a team like the Vikings or something that could actually use him. You know what I mean? Like,
they got Jordan Mason over there, but that'd be a similar type of idea of, get a guy like a Trey Benson more opportunity to show if he actually can hang in this league.
Yeah, 100%. We have some graphics or graph trade cards from before the draft, really. Actually,
our
draft
analysis.
If you want, I can pull some of these up. I mean, obviously, Love is
the 101 right there. Love, like it says, elite burst through the. He's elite when bursting through the hole. He's got home run speed. We all see that on the tape.
Yeah, 1,300 yards this past season.
Yeah,
18
under 200
touchdowns.
carries. That's the biggest thing, too.
18 rushing touchdowns alone, too.
Yeah, and the 6.9 yards per carry, like, that's absurd. The one thing you got to remember, and I've reminded myself and certain people of this as well, you have to kind of sit there and you can just like anyone else, you can obviously goo gaga over Love, but there's the perfect prospect typically doesn't exist, and there's going to be something wrong with or something to be concerned about, I guess, with every prospect. The concern is not, if you're going to create a concern, I should say, for Love, I don't think it's anything that has to do with him personally. I think
No.
it's outside circumstances.
It's the Cardinals, if anything.
The Cardinals, again, we discussed how that's a weird landing spot. The other side of Jeremiah Love that's interesting that I've thought, and I wouldn't put too much stock into this, it's just more of a thing to maybe take a look at and say, okay,
monitor, sure.
Yeah. The times he faced elite defenses in college, the couple times, like week 1 against Miami, not necessarily a great week for him. There's a few other weeks throughout where he played some tough defenses, not too many, but a few.
Yeah.
And the games weren't necessarily, you saw a big disparity in the numbers in those games he played against better defenses. And I don't think that means much towards him. I think that means more towards Notre Dame being.
I would say maybe the offense
will just be. They're also independent. They're not, a part of a conference.
100%.
So they don't really play a bunch of SEC teams like that, or certain things are not on their schedule. Certain teams, I should say. So when you get to this point of now realizing, okay, he's still the elite generational prospect.
Yeah.
Weird landing spot, and maybe didn't play the greatest defenses, but because of the home run speed, because of the touchdown threat, anytime he touches the ball, you can kind of sit there and go, okay, there's not really a risk. It's kind of he's got a high floor, like I said. Like I think Darren McFadden is probably the floor, which that's a pretty good floor in my opinion.
Yeah, his peak was excellent.
Yeah, Darren McFadden was a great running back. So I think we can kind of, sit there and make do that he's up there with that Genty and just below that Saquon type of just below that tier.
Yeah, I think he's personally the best prospect I've seen at the running back position since Saquon and Gibbs.
Yeah, personally. Yeah, I think the only one you could probably other one you could put in that combo is probably
Bijan. Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, he's in that, when he gets to first touches the ball, he's going to be in that Devon HN category where you're instantly getting production, a home run hitting guy, lots of speed, bigger than HN too, so he's going to give you a little more power. Like you say right here on the screen, it says true 3 down and high volume running back.
Yeah, which like a lot of times in the league, that's not a thing anymore. You get a lot of, even with Gibbs, he could still do that, but you want to save a dude like Gibbs.
There's a reason they had Montgomery. There's a reason they have Pacheco
still. Yeah, this guy is not that dude. He's like Saquon. He's like, McCaffrey is kind of like that, even though now in his older age, they're even trying to, lessen his workload.
Yeah, and they still might give the ball to Algier.
Yeah, they have so many running backs,
and
they're spending so much money at the running back position too that they kind of have to give it to some other dudes.
Yeah, I think it's $10 million between Connor and Algier, which those are backup running backs.
Yeah,
that's just this season.
Love is the most guaranteed money by a running back ever.
Yeah, so you got, like you said, a lot of money is invested into that running back position. I do think there is a chance goal line work may not be taken from him, but there will be opportunities.
Some Algier
Connor.
Yeah, kind of like
both big, solid, big backs.
It
big
could
bodies.
be. I don't think to this extent because I don't know. I mean, granted, the Arizona Cardinals are a hell of an organization, and I don't mean that in a good way. But I could see it being similar to some Charbonnet taken away from Kenneth Walker in the past couple of years type of thing. Maybe not to that extent.
Similar.
Because that was ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely an extreme version of what could happen. But no, there's not really much wrong with Love's profile as a prospect. He grades out as the highest prospect, again, like you said, since probably Saquon, Bijan, and Gibbs.
Truly, I would maybe even up this to like a 9.7 now that he's gone number 3. And I'm because of the draft capital being a top 3 pick. Again, the last guy to go that high was Saquon at 2. Yeah,
You don't really see it happen that often, but when it is a generational guy like this,
it's a home run.
Yeah, it typically does not miss.
I think this guy is maybe the next highest graded dude we have, so I'm gonna pull in his and get this thing put up here a bit bigger. Carnell Tate is probably our next guy to talk about here at a 9.2 from what I have. I think he's in the elite fantasy tier. He had 838 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns this past season. He's got big play efficiency. Touchdown rate is near the top of the class. His production, despite sharing targets with one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in all of college, it shows that he can get it done, even as a second option. And granted, a lot of people think that could be a hindrance against him. I know Malik Neighbors was even saying the other day that he hasn't been a one. Yeah, he hasn't been a one on his own team. So how do you really expect that to do? Expect that to carry over and let him to be a one on an NFL team, which that's a valid concern. I get what he's saying. But also when you're the number 2 to a generational receiver like Jeremiah Smith, I don't think it's saying anything against you.
No, if anything, it's again, it's things that are out of Carnell Tate's control.
Yeah.
The one thing, I think I mentioned this to you within the last 24 to 48 hours, even analyzing his profile, is definitely something that it's fun to do. He's a fun receiver to watch.
Yeah.
He pops on tape for his lack of flaws.
Yeah.
Because you don't really sit there and see Carnell Tate as a Jamar Chase, even though technically his draft capital is higher. You don't sit there and see him as a AJ Green or a Julio Jones or a Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
But you can sit there and say, all right, I could see Carnell Tate being a big comparison I've seen recently. A lot of them is granted, this is more personality trait to start the comparison, but the actual comparison makes sense. A mild-mannered George Pickens.
I was gonna say you were thinking George Pickens,
and I definitely could see it personally as a
little different for sure.
As a scout in my own right, when George Pickens' draft happened, that year leading up to that draft, he was my number 1 receiver that year in that class. I believe that was the same class as JSN, right?
Pickens, yeah, I think so.
With the Christian Watson and
what? I think so.
Bijan and
it probably was. It probably
because I had back end first with that pick with that draft. I didn't have.
Was this year 4 for him then? Was he only in the Steelers 2 years?
I think it was 3.
So he's been in the league 5 years. Okay, that checks out.
No, this will be the 4th. Oh no,
5th.
He's turning 25.
Yeah, he only played 1 season with. Okay, that checks out.
He's
played 4 seasons. This will be his 5th. He had 3 seasons with the Steelers, 1 with the Cowboys.
Yeah,
so
before the ACL tear, he was my number 1 receiver in that class.
Yeah,
and even
I remember
then,
that.
To me, it was a toss-up between him and JSN after the ACL. Obviously, you see the two of them are at now.
Elites. Yeah. It's worked out.
And the one thing I think also you can compare, the one person you can also compare Carnell Tate to is very similar style to T. Higgins.
Sure.
Where you have a bigger body, 6'3". He's only 195. T is probably around there. He's probably 210 maybe. He's leaner 6'5" guy, but still a bigger body because of the height. And they go up and get the ball. They can high point it. It's the one thing you have here is polished technician and a chain mover.
Yeah.
I like that because, like I was saying, say earlier, in the last 48 hours, I've told you that the initial Carnell Tate tape before last year, there was a lot of things he needed to improve on. His route running was not perfect. His separation was not perfect. There's a lot of things that he had to grow with.
Yeah, he needed to improve.
He did not become this prospect until this last year, but there's a lot to like there. It's similar to those other receivers in Ohio State where you know that they're going to be good. Maybe it takes them that next year to where there's more opportunity because we've seen plenty of Ohio State receivers come.
Yeah, that's the problem almost. And what I was going to say of partially maybe even why he wasn't quite that polished technician that he now has become in the last year. It's hard when you're behind guys like Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith to to get the reps all the time, to get those become that polished dude. So once Egbuka got drafted, suddenly he had the opportunity to work on that and to grow as a receiver. And you see what he did with it this past season. I do feel like in terms of with him, I love that I had the polished technician change mover there, because that's really what he is in a lot of senses. 17.5 yards per catch, I think, is what I had here. A little weird on how it was put on the screen, but definitely one of my favorite things about these Ohio State guys, and with him and Egbuka in particular in the last 2 seasons, is that these dudes, even as twos behind Jeremiah Smith, are very polished and very NFL ready. And that's something I had there on the top, is he's elite NFL ready and low volatility. There's not a lot of variance in what you're getting here with this guy. You know he's going to be the number 1 receiver for the Titans for the foreseeable future, with a young quarterback that he can grow with. You know that he's coming in as that polished dude that, sure, you got people saying he hasn't been the number 1, but guess what? His stats and his film proved that he can get the job done, and he's going to have the volume and the ability from day 1 to be able to be an elite receiver in this league.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely high floor. Ceiling is, I think, somewhat yet to be seen, because of the fact that we don't know what his production could be like as a number 1.
Sure.
I think we know it could be really good to great, but again, we want to see that if he can establish that connection with Cam Ward, we want to see him.
Yeah, I have a ceiling not that much higher than his final grade. Not that his final grade isn't already super high, but that's like his draft grade compared to where his ceiling can truly be. So there's not much room for him to truly potentially grow for his ceiling, in my opinion. But that's
it's interesting that you say that, because I truly think that there's an outcome where he is the best receiver from this class.
Oh yeah.
I also think there's an outcome where he's the 3rd best receiver from this class.
Yeah.
But I don't think that specific outcome where he's the 3rd best is going to be because he's a bad receiver.
No.
I think that that outcome happens if Lemon and Tyson.
I would say mainly because Lemon has the best.
Ceiling.
Lemon has probably the best situation to kind of start from day 1, and then Tyson might be the most talented of the 3.
I think Tyson has the most raw talent, and he definitely, in my opinion, could have the highest ceiling. But I also
Tate is probably one of the safest, because
that's exactly what I was going to say, is that I do think Tate is the safest pick there. The 102, 103, if he falls to the 104, you're probably getting a steal. 105,
Yeah, it's very similar to how I felt about Egbuka and Tet last year. You knew Tet was probably had the potential to be the best receiver in that class, and you probably were drafting him to be the best receiver in the class too. But at the same time, you know that going in, Egbuka was probably one of the safest picks in the entire draft.
Yeah, and the highest variance of where was Travis Hunter.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So, with that being said, though, as far as landing spot, I don't think we hate it. I don't think we love it.
I like it.
I think the one thing we love is the opportunity. Yeah, they have only Wandale and Calvin Ridley.
He has more opportunity than the other 2 receivers that were drafted around the same spots as him. Lemon is coming in. He could potentially have a lot of opportunity, but he has a Heisman winner in front of him with Devonta Smith, and then Tyson has Olave in front of him, who was like a top 6 receiver last year, top 7 in fantasy. So he definitely will have the most opportunity of the 3, most likely coming in.
Yeah.
We can pull up our next one, because I think we've talked an extent here of Carnell Tate now. Personally, both of us probably have stake in getting him at some point, because we have picks that are right around where he might end up. So
yeah, there's a chance. There's definitely a chance either one of us either ends up with him in a couple of different
or this guy
draft class. Yeah, ends up with him, or potentially make a move in order to secure that pick, being Carnell Tate. As far as this guy goes, though, definitely the Tate pops off the page, at least for me.
I think
more than any other receiver in this class. And a lot of that has to do with his route running and his agility, and his ability to separate. I think is second to none in this class. I think that he is, like you say, explosive separator right there. He's definite. The one concern has been injuries throughout his time during his collegiate career, being at Colorado and then transferring to ASU. You see only the 61 receptions on 711 yards
this past season.
Again, missing some games there. You see the total production throughout his career in college, pretty good.
Yeah, and then you see in the 24 season it has there he had over 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns in that year. So that kind of shows that some of those injuries hindered what he could have done this past season, but also it shows the type of guy that he is, despite mediocre quarterback play as well.
Yeah, the ASU had the high hopes for their QB going into last season, and he just didn't deliver like most people I think thought he would. Jordan Tyson, though, was the one guy he could rely on.
Yeah.
And Jordan Tyson, if you don't know, his brother, he comes from a family of athletes. His brother is in the NBA, drafted to the Cavs in the mid to late first round, around the 20th pick, I think.
Jalen Tyson.
Yeah. So the two, he's got the pedigree of to be an athlete in the NFL in terms of his family heritage. And
if anything, I think he'll be a better NFL athlete than his brother.
I mean, he's a higher pick than his brother.
Yeah, I was saying not that his brother's not good at basketball. His brother's really good at basketball, but
but
he's just better at football.
Yeah, we're looking at Jordan Tyson to eventually, at least I am, to eventually be a wide receiver one for whatever team he's obviously on the Saints. If they end up keeping him, if he ends up going elsewhere at some point in his career, that'll be yet to be seen. But they now have a nice duo.
Yeah, I was just saying, as an Olave owner, at first I was kind of like, oh, do I like this? And then I'm like, no, I do like this. They're not going to have to
opens up the field more for Olave because of the fact that you're not going to be able to double either one of these guys.
No.
If Tyson remains healthy and beats those injury concerns,
allegations.
It's essentially, if he ends up beating those injury concerns, he definitely has the potential to be the best receiver in this class, ahead of Tate, ahead of Lemon, Concepcion, Cooper, all those guys. He's if you watch the tape on Jordan Tyson and you don't see it, I don't know how that's possible. Yeah. He's a lot of fun to just sit. You can even just sit there and watch his route running. You don't even have to watch every single time the ball goes to him. You could just sit there and analyze him as a true football player, and the guy just has great instincts. He makes a lot of plays that are just eye popping, and if that can translate to the next level, the other thing too that I think he can bring to the table is a PPR. He could be a PPR god because of the fact that he can make the big plays, but he's going to be in that intermediate short range
100%.
He's going to be doing slants, little drags where catch the ball and he's gone because of the fact that the receiver behind is just going to be behind him due to the fact that his separation is so elite. Yeah,
and even in our wide receiver archetype, it kind of points to that. It says explosive separator, big play threat, but within that, it talks about how he's thick, tall, and automatic outside wide receiver, which is what you're talking about in terms of PPR threat. He's automatic.
You can play the slot too if you need him.
Oh, 100%. But the fact that he is pretty thick and tall, 6'2", 200 pounds, like that's a dude that over the middle has the ability to make run after catch and a dangerous, kind of elite acceleration and within subtle routes and whatnot. So it's like the dude can do everything on the field. He really can.
Again, biggest concern from the community and just people in general is the injury history. I personally, I'm not going to disregard that, but
I don't think either of us are as concerned about it.
I'm not too worried about that because injuries sometimes happen. A lot of freak things. You can't really put too much.
It's not something you always can predict.
You can't put too much stock into something like that. The one type of injury, or if you're like Michael Penix and you've torn your ACL like 4 times, that's maybe something to be concerned about.
Yeah,
but
clearly.
Jordan Tyson, again, he's had little knick-knack injuries, hamstring. He's torn his ACL, blown out his knee, whatever. You still can watch the tape and see that there's not really much affecting him from his knee injury. The production shows that. Sure, maybe a hamstring injury. Some people could worry about that lingering, but he's had some time in this whole offseason to heal. I don't think he ran the 40, in order to be healthy by the time all this, training camp and whatnot comes. And the Saints picked him at the 108. You don't take a guy at the 108 if you think that he's got injuries that are going to continue to hamper him down the road.
No.
It's I'm confident that he's going to be a great player in this league. Health, as long as he's healthy. And I got no problem taking him anywhere from the 102 to the 104, 105. If he slips that late, then you're getting a steal, in my opinion. If he does slip to the 105 let's say you're the 106, 107, 108 in that range, I'm doing everything I can to trade up to get this guy if he falls past the 103.
I feel that. Personally, another dude that both of us might be getting in our draft. We'll see how it ends up turning out. But a guy I definitely want shares of on top. Like these top 5 guys in the class, I think everybody should be wanting shares of some of them if you can get them. You know what I mean? Like it's
make the move. If that's the one thing people, again, why I say don't give up on a class. The top 5, somebody may sit there at the 104, 105. And they may not be a fan of these wide receivers or Jadarian Price like we're about to pull up right now. And if they're not, hey, make them an offer. See what you can make happen, because again, these top 5, 6 picks, still good players that you're going to want on your roster or that are going to make an immediate impact for their teams and for your fantasy team.
100%.
I'm trying to see where else, because I know I have my Lemon one here, but we'll go over Price, since honestly I think between the two of us we might have Price above Lemon anyway.
I think the one thing that may
it's tough
allow that to be a thing. Yeah, it is.
It is. It really is.
The one thing that may allow that to be a thing is landing spot, because of the fact that he landed in the best spot you could possibly land in.
Especially for a running back, let alone the fact that he ended up getting that first round capital, even if it was 32nd.
Yeah, and I think the Seahawks see more, because a lot of people
they see what we see.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. The Seahawks see what you and I see. A lot of people in the Dynasty community, I don't think they're scared of Jadarian Price. I don't think they dislike Jadarian Price. I think they like him. I don't think they like him enough.
100%. A lot of to what you're saying, it's not that they're necessarily scared. It's that they don't like the profile of him being a backup in college and not getting the workload that you historically see with running backs that generally hit.
Yeah, they're not happy necessarily about the production, but if we can be 100% honest with ourselves, he had almost 700 yards on 113 carries.
That's gross.
Jeremiah Love, as you saw in the few slides previously, had 199 carries. That's 80 more carries, 80 plus more carries.
7 more touchdowns than
Jadarian Price. So if you're giving Jadarian Price those 80 carries, and he's at his yards per, do you know what his yards per carry was off the top of your head?
I would say, looking at this, it's got to be in the 6 range, because 113 carries, 674. It's got to be in the 6 point something range.
Exactly. So you give him 6 yards,
which
a carry,
is just like Love, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You give him 6+ yards a carry on 80 more touches. We're talking about another 400, almost 500 yards added on to this 700-yard total. We're talking about anywhere from 1,100 to 1,300 yard rusher with a full workload.
Yeah, I don't know any backups in college that have ever had 11 rushing touchdowns.
He would have been a starter for 98, 95, whatever 90+ percentage you want to say of the country based on college running backs. And that's not to say that the rest of the college running backs are bad or that we're just sitting here discounting them.
No, if
But
anything,
this-
that just shows how good this dude is as a backup.
Yeah, and again, the only reason he was a backup is because he was in the same running back room with the best running back in football.
Straight up.
This player, Jadarian Price, if you give him the proper work, a lot of people have certain issues with this or that. My biggest thing is you look at the player that is carrying the ball in the tape, and you see explosiveness. You see a guy that has great vision, a great cut ability. You also see a guy that, sure, maybe he didn't get a ton of receiving work, but that's, again, taking into account that Jeremiah Love is getting almost all that receiving work. Jadarian Price, when he did get receiving work, made things happen for the minimal amount of work he got.
Yeah, 87 yards doesn't look like much, but on the minimal work it's still impressive, and it adds his totals to over 750 yards on the season.
Most backup running backs aren't putting up these totals with 113 carries.
No.
11 rushing touchdowns. He also gives you a big spark from the return game, which could be possible.
I was going to bring that up.
I don't think the one thing I think that they may use him as a returner if they end up signing another running back.
Even then, I could see them doing it just as, because why not? But also at the same time, you don't want to injure a guy like that. And the thing that I think is the biggest say for him and tell that this dude is going to be successful in the NFL, not only did they take him in the first round, they quite literally did not sign Kenneth Walker to draft him. And I think that needs to be emphasized more. They quite literally went out of their way to not sign Kenneth Walker on a franchise tag to get this man in the draft. Granted, they're saving like $10 million this year because of it. So, sure, because of that it could make sense just on that alone. But they don't have Charbonnet already because he tore his ACL last year. And then they choose not to sign Kenneth Walker to draft this guy. I think that tells you everything you need to know.
I'll say this. I'm not sure the exact thinking was don't draft Kenny or don't re-sign Kenny because we want to draft Jadarian.
Feels like
I think you could, it's possible. It is possible. I think the thinking was more along the lines of
we can find a cheaper running back.
Let's let Kenny explore free agency. If he can't find somewhere he wants to go or yada yada, again, like you just said, cheaper option is in the draft. And they probably saw their pick and said, you know what, we like this guy enough to where if Kenny doesn't sign with us, we'll be okay. Because we like Jadarian Price enough in this draft process. And like you and I just said earlier, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything to not like about him. He, like you say, could be a true running back one given full volume. He's going to have all the opportunity in the world with Seattle to make that happen and become a minimum RB2. I think in fantasy, could he easily going to touch 1,000 yards. There should be no reason he doesn't.
No. Yeah, I agree. He easily should be able to this season. I'm going to try to make sure that I have the lemon one up here because
I think the biggest thing to worry about with Price would be if Charbonnet comes back sooner than expected and maybe take some work from him. But as far as the individual Jadarian Price goes, I got no issues with him. If so the other thing I wanted to say too about Price, a lot of people have him right around that 105, 104, 105, 106, 107 range. And for the one thing to take into account too in our draft, quarterbacks aren't necessarily thought of highly in our rookie draft because we are only a 10-team league. Everyone does.
Yeah, and we're not doing super flex either.
Correct. So Mendoza isn't necessarily extremely high on our boards. He's high, but he's not maybe as high as like a lot of people have him in that 102 to 105, 106 range. We're not going to have him that high because of the way our league is structured. The other reason too that we would have Price in that 104 to 106 range, I think you and I don't have him past 105 personally. because again, this class running back wise is hurt. And the one mistake I think people sometimes make in certain drafts.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate taking him in the 7 to 12 range, but it's still in a 10-team league. I'm talking about
Mendoza.
Mendoza.
Yeah, no. I'm back to Price.
Yeah.
But no, Mendoza, 7 to 12 range. You take a shot at Mendoza. He's a good quarterback. He's going to give you some ability with his legs.
In the 10-team, that is.
Yeah,
Super flex or a 12-team?
Super flex, he's a top 5 pick.
We have a 12-team league too, where it's 5-point passing touchdown for quarterbacks.
Yep. Again,
and there's some there's quarterback needy teams that high key are probably going to take him at 2 or 3.
Yeah. So the biggest thing too to remember with Jadarian Price is he is the clear-cut running back too now that he has that draft capital to Seattle. He already was in our mind, but
in this class,
a lot of people have Jonah Coleman as the second best running back in this class. Different situation. If Jonah Coleman would have went to Seattle, we're talking about a different situation potentially.
Yeah, because of Seattle, it even makes us probably the two of us put him above this guy, Mekhi Lemon, who is a very talented receiver in his own right. He definitely had some interesting stuff going on in the draft process in terms of some teams saying just he had really bad interviews with them. Granted, who knows if he just didn't want to go to those teams or what the full situation is.
I remember when we were taking a walk the other day, walking the dog, and I tried to explain to you that sometimes agents of certain players might go out of their way and tell them, hey, we're not trying to get taken by this team.
We don't want to go to the Browns.
Yeah, so maybe botch the interview here or there, whatever.
Yeah, and then he ends up with a team like the Eagles, who's good.
Yeah, I personally have no problems with Mekhi Lemon. I think he's
super talented regardless.
I think again, just like the other two wide receivers, he could be the best wide receiver in this class.
Yeah, and personally, as the way I do fantasy, I will allow that whole fiasco and the weird interviews that I've seen to drop him below a guy like Price for me, because I already like Price better as it is. I'm a little more biased in that sense. And then seeing stuff like that is a little bit of a red flag. It's not crazy. I mean, last year we saw a running back with Judkins have a domestic violence situation, and that kept me from wanting to draft him. And then he ends up being one of the best rookies in the class in terms of running backs. Granted, that stuff is still part of his story now and a part of his situation as an NFL player, but it doesn't hinder him in what he brings to the table in fantasy.
No, if you actually if you ignore those stupid, did this and that about his interviews and that, whatever, and you look at the player and the actual person Mekhi Lemon is, and a million other interviews, you could find that out where, he probably wasn't told to botch the interview by his agents. 100%. This is a player you want in Dynasty fantasy football, especially if you're doing PPR. Another guy that could be a 100%. PPR monster.
Yeah, I think the two guys that the two of us see the most when we're watching his tape is probably between Puka Nacua and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Correct. And those are very high extreme examples. But we're talking about that potentially being his ceiling. Now, his floor, that is yet to be seen. But what we saw on film from this last season, great route runner, wins at the point of attack, is willing to go up and get it, even though he's a small body receiver. Yeah. He has no problem being aggressive. And he's the one thing he has, I think, over a lot of receivers in this class is heart. I watched this guy catch the ball and move with intent. He moves with purpose. He's not even though he's small, he's got the dog in him. Yeah, and I think that's why the Eagles had no problem moving up ahead of the Steelers, which was a big thing because the Steelers were about to go get him. And they're about to have a super receiver room with the three of those guys. Now the Eagles are the ones. He goes to another side of Pennsylvania. We do have a question in the chat though. From good old Landy. He says, what do you think Giants are going to do with Arvell Reese? I think that is a very good question. And one that will kind of yet to be seen a little bit, but that's an excellent question. They did a similar thing last year where they had Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Dexter. Like they had an entire group of guys where you're just kind of lining people up. Never the offensive line never really gets a break because you're sending dudes constantly that are fresh. I think that's a similar idea of what they want. I also think this could say a little something about Abdul Carter. Maybe he's not the elite blue chip prospect that they thought.
That's fair.
The other thing possible is maybe they look at Arvell Reese as kind of a hybrid, and they could use him as a kind of a linebacker that does a little bit of everything, where you're seeing him as a hybrid edge, a hybrid guy that could maybe drop back in coverage here and there. It's going to be very interesting. I do think they made the right pick in terms of the talent on the board, if that makes sense. I don't know if the Giants made the right pick in terms of the need. You know that, but otherwise, this question wouldn't even be.
He was the best player available, so you can't really knock him for that.
But again, the question is there though because there's not exactly room.
Of that.
I also think though this could again. People were like, "Oh, now they're going to trade Kayvon Thibodeau in the offseason. Dexter Lawrence is the one that gets traded." All of a sudden, we're kind of sitting here now looking at Thibodeau again. Now that they drafted Arvell Reese, like, well, maybe Thibodeau could be on the move. And because they could end up with Abdul Carter on one side, Arvell Reese on the other, if they do end up making him that pure edge rusher that he's capable of being. He's definitely very raw in his ability as an edge rusher, but the talent is there and the athleticism is there. So 100%. that's what makes me think maybe Thibodeau is the one that ends up being on the move, and Arvell Reese becomes that full-time edge rusher opposite side of Abdul Carter.
Yeah, once we finish off talking about Lemon here, we should probably go over some of the, in general, just winners and losers of the draft. Some people that we thought were maybe a steal or surprise, because I feel like definitely going over some more of like the rest of the draft outside of fantasy is important as well. I mean, fantasy is one thing in terms of the players that we're drafting here for Dynasty and trying to get for that, but also the situations for the league and the teams are important as well in terms of just in general how the league is shaping for this next season. A lot of that determines how these fantasy guys will even be able to produce. So with Lemon as well, I have him here as a blue chip franchise fantasy asset. I think you already kind of mentioned that. He's very polished with his route running and consistent separator, like we were saying.
He's going to help them from day one.
Yeah, and he has a strong body control and hands, even at his smaller stature. I just noticed I didn't get his actual, height and weight and whatnot on there, but he was a Blitnikoff Award winner in a year that Jeremiah Smith was in the
I think that says something in itself. You win the Blitnikoff award in a season where
the next LeBron of receivers.
Smith was healthy and involved. That says something in its own right. Definitely should not be taken lightly as a prospect. I do think that there's a potential world where Devontae Smith remains the wide receiver too for them.
In terms of volume, for sure, it's possible.
The other thing is Devontae Smith was drafted not that long ago, but we have to realize that he is getting a little bit older. He came out as an older prospect, That's fair. As it was. So we kind of have to look at Lemon as the successor in a way, not just to A.J. Brown, but to Devontae Smith as well.
Yeah.
Does that mean that Devontae Smith is going to fall off a cliff? No, I do not believe that's the case.
No, but I do agree with you, especially with the fact that I have him, his archetype here as a PPR target hog. I could see him getting more volume and becoming more of the one in a sense for fantasy.
Yep.
And the other thing with this is that he's a very different style of receiver than what A.J. Brown is. A.J. Brown is that tall bomb play, deep threat. He can do some of the intermediate stuff and do some of that short stuff, but he's not going to be the same, this is the way I feel about it. You want to get A.J. Brown 8 to 12 targets in a game.
At least 3 to 4 of those being deep shots.
But Mekhi Lemon, you don't want to get him 8 to 12. You almost need to get him 12 to 14.
Get him as many as you possibly can because the guy can make things happen.
Yeah.
He can win at the point of attack, aka the separation point. His trail off is good. He's gonna leave guys behind him, and there's not really a lot to. there's not a lot to nitpick about Mekhi Lemon's game because he's a very
very
fine route runner. And the biggest thing to sit there and enjoy watching his tape, other than the passion, the fight, the heart that he brings, is that technical soundness. We don't compare him to a Puka or an Amon-Ra for no reason.
Yeah, no, I mean, even here on his film notes, reliable in high leverage situations. I think that's the thing that can depict that the most. You can rely on it. That's how you become a PPR target hog. You become a reliable guy when the moments matter. You become a dude that the quarterback is looking to target, and he definitely is that.
We have another question real quick in the chat. It says, what do you think? We got Fave Rocks 4820, 4820. He's saying,
what do you think of Parker Washington or
and
Woody
Marks for RJ Harvey? A-Chain and Rashawn Moore. Funny joke. I call Ramondre Rashawn Moore.
It's an insider. For sure.
A-Chain and Ramondre are my running backs, and he has Olave, Rice, Ted Neighbors, and Alec Pierce. I love that receiving core. Rice is interesting, although it doesn't sound like things are going to happen to him this offseason in a negative sense.
The two of us were worried he might get the suspension or something, but it's not pointing towards that direction at the moment.
Parker Washington and Woody Marks. So as far as Parker Washington goes, I like the certain things he showed at the end of last season, but I don't sit here and think that I think that he's a guy that's going to be probably fourth on that depth chart after Brian Thomas, after Jacoby Myers,
I've never been
Travis Hunter.
I've never been a Parker Washington guy. He's talented.
I know Trevor Lawrence likes him.
Yeah, that's why he's able to even be relevant.
But I think that him going out.
Woody Marks is interesting to me, but they did just I like Woody Marks a decent amount, but they did just get what's his face? Montgomery.
David Montgomery.
They just got David Montgomery from the Lions, so it's a little less likely that he becomes a guy that you can rely on at this point.
I would say I don't hate that trade for the fact that RJ Harvey probably has a not even clearer path, but he's younger than both of them. I'm pretty sure Woody Marks might be younger than RJ Harvey.
RJ Harvey came in the league, so
I know. That's what made me rethink that. So what I'm going to say is, first I'll ask you this. Have you had your rookie draft yet? And if not, do you have a pick to obtain a guy like Jonah Coleman? And you may sit there and say, oh, well, why would I want two Broncos running backs? Well, you don't want to sit there and trade for RJ Harvey and then all of a sudden he's not the guy.
Yeah, no.
Woody Marks, we know, is going to be probably a complimentary piece at this point to David Montgomery, but he's probably not going to lead that backfield because David Montgomery's there. Parker Washington is not going to – he has the 112. He won last year. Oh, that 112 is a perfect spot for Jonah Coleman. If I'm you, I'm probably doing that trade just for the fact that –
Congrats on that dub. I know Olave helped you a lot.
Yeah, definitely congrats on – your receivers definitely – I mean, Neighbors being out –
that room is incredible, though. I love it.
I'll say this. Neighbors being out last year didn't help you, but Pierce had a good year. He's going to be better this year even potentially. Trying to trade the pick, but pretty hard. Yeah, 100%, dude. Trading that pick is definitely going to be difficult. You might have to add something to get rid of that pick if you're trying to upgrade. But what I'm telling you right now for sure, that Jonah Coleman, if you do that, if you do that trade for RJ Harvey, try to grab Jonah Coleman with that 112.
It'd be a smart move.
Yeah, because of the fact that neither of us are huge Parker Washington guys, more based on the situation with him being buried on the depth chart behind those three receivers.
And Woody Marks is almost a backup in a sense, like a Coleman, but Coleman in this sense too, you have more upside.
I think I'd rather have Coleman and RJ Harvey than Woody Marks and Parker Washington.
Me too.
Because of the fact
and I'm not even if you've watched last season at all on this channel, I'm an RJ Harvey hater, if anything.
Yeah, but you'd still rather have both of them because the two of them, Coleman and Harvey, are a Dobbins injury away from having a lot of good work.
Yeah, and like you said earlier in the stream, I believe that what's his face? Now I'm like Harvey Coleman, even though
Dobbins.
Dobbins is only on a 1-year contract as well. So next year it could just be Coleman and Harvey that's leading that backfield. Let me see here because we were talking about Lemon. I don't know if there's anything else to kind of put in there. I do think that part of the other reason I talked about already, AJ Brown has just such a different play style from him. I feel like that was part of why AJ Brown kind of got frustrated being on the Eagles, is that his quarterback is not made to do deep threat stuff. That's just not what the Eagles are trying to do with their game plan and with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is not a deep thrower of the ball, at least not in my opinion. He's not. I'm sure there's some stats that might show that he's pretty good at it, but in my opinion, he's not the best deep thrower of the ball. And because of that, A.J. Brown took a hit last season. I don't even think he was hurt much. He might have been a couple of times, but I'm pretty sure most of that had to do with his frustration of not getting targets and in general, the offense not using him and utilizing him. And again, Lemon is a very different receiver that I think can benefit Jalen Hurts in a lot of ways in terms of the fact, again, Jalen Hurts is not a very good deep thrower of the ball, so this gives him someone up the middle and short area yardage to consistently rely on throwing it to.
Yeah, in a way, strangely enough, he's not a big body like you would normally call someone that's a safety valve.
He's like Puka in terms of the fact he's just strong and like
someone you
got
could, someone you could rely on to catch the football. He's got good hands. Again, we talked about it with the route running. He definitely is a guy you want to try to get your hands on, regardless of if Jalen Hurts is the quarterback or not, because it's almost better in terms of the landing spot because of the fact that we don't really want Jalen Hurts throwing that deep ball too often.
It's weird that I'm not a big fan of Jalen Hurts having a Jalen Hurts receiver. I've experienced it in some senses before. It's not my favorite time, but at the same time, with a guy like this dude has a profile that actually matches the type of game that Hurts is actually good at in terms of throwing the ball and being a quarterback.
Yeah, definitely fits. I think what they
he's a better fit.
Try to do there in Philly.
Yeah, he's a better fit than AJ Brown for that offense, in my opinion.
Right.
Let's get on to let's talk about the draft a little bit because there's definitely more stuff that we can talk about in terms of how things turned out and landed. I think one of the biggest head scratchers, in my opinion, was the Rams selecting their quarterback of the future with Ty Simpson. He played 15 games in Alabama as a starter.
Yeah, I don't think he started more than 15 games there and gave you some good things and some not so good things. I don't think he's necessarily bad.
No, I don't think he's bad. I just don't think
he's know if he's warranted the 13th pick.
Hell no.
Bo Nix was the 13th pick, and I'd much rather have Bo Nix than.
Me too. I was like, wait, where are you going with that? 100%. I would rather have Bo Nix. Not even close. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different moves that were made either before or during the draft. The Bengals improved their defense without even having to make a first-round draft selection by trading to get Dexter Lawrence and their other DT, Jonathan Allen.
They ended up signing Allen, trading for Lawrence, revamping the whole defensive line. Just much better look for their team.
Their team as a whole, yeah.
Certain teams made a lot of good draft picks. The Browns, I think, made good improvements where they needed to. I thought.
I felt like the Giants and the Browns in particular. Jets tried to do their best, but I feel like even then some of their moves were not necessarily beneficial to their team as a whole. They're just picking the best guy on the board kind of thing.
Which is fine.
Yeah, they need to do that. They have a lot of holes.
Yeah, the Jets' real stab is going to be next year. I think they have 3 firsts.
Yeah, on top of the 2 that they had this season.
Yeah, so I think they're in a fine spot rebuilding their positional needs here and there because we all know they're not going to contend this season.
Same with the Browns.
It's a good development year for both of those teams.
Sure. And then Trying to think of who else made some big splash plays. That Chiefs trading up with the Browns to get
Mansour Delane.
Yeah, that was a good play for them.
Very interesting, though. I thought maybe they could have got Delane at that 109 spot.
Potentially, they wanted to get their guy, though.
I thought they had a great draft in terms of the late half, using that pick to get Peter Woods, the DT.
Yeah,
I didn't think he would slip that far into the first. I thought he'd be more of a. I thought maybe middle late first, but not very end of the first. So
yeah, and then we had some sneaky selections like Brazel going to the Panthers, and
that one's interesting to me because that archetype, and quite literally, more specifically, the Tennessee. I call them the Tennessee wide receiver archetype. Doesn't exactly hit almost ever. Like very hard for Tennessee. It's because their offense is very gimmicky. It
feels like a lot of their other receiver selections in the last couple of years.
Jalen
like
High, a lot of dudes that run that 9 route,
that's
straight down the field, and they're fast. And in college, you don't have a lot of DBs that are going to be covering like NFL DBs, so it's easy. It's harder for them to keep up with that speed.
Yeah, and I like Brazel a little bit more than Hyatt, even when he was coming out. I think not that I didn't like Hyatt. I thought Hyatt's okay. Granted, maybe that's just my Homer, Panther fan biasy as well. But I liked Brazel before he even got drafted to us, so I'm pretty happy with that selection.
I think the community is very 50-50 on him. I think very much how you and I are. You have some more optimism than I do. I personally, I'm probably going to have 0 shares of him personally.
I probably won't
just
either.
Because I'm kind of not about that. Like I've drafted the Tennessee wide receivers myself and experienced it myself. So if you're a fan of Brazel, if you're out there and you're a big fan of his, that's not a bad grab. Again, all these guys, like we said in the beginning of the video, all these guys are kind of dart shot, crap shoots where it doesn't really matter it's all opinion based once you hit the second round.
What was the name of that corner that kept slipping? Because high key.
Oh, Jermod McCoy. I
thought the Raiders had one of the best drafts.
Raiders improved immensely, especially if McCoy can actually get healthy and be who he's supposed to be. They would have a great.
That's
draft.
A steal at 401. Yeah.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah, there's not a
if he's healthy, 100%.
Yeah, there's not a lot of corners that were. There's a lot of people that had him rated the number 1 corner if it wasn't for.
I'm pretty sure he was even on ESPN's thing. He was top 4 and
most people had him as the second corner going in the first round, top 15 pick.
Yeah, I was just saying. I think he was listed as a top 16 talent in the entire class, and he.
I have friends that thought he was the best corner in the draft over Delane.
100%. I can see that.
Yeah, if you watch McCoy's tape, he's man coverage. That dude is ridiculous. He's gonna follow you step for step. He's got quick hips. He moves properly the way you want a corner to move. If you're drafting a guy to be your number 1 corner, the problem again is just the injuries. But I think if he could get healthy, the Raiders got a steal.
Yeah, there's some ceiling to go from there. In terms of losers, off the top of my head, I feel like the Niners were probably one of the biggest losers in the draft in terms of just
draft for them.
Barely participated in it as well, it felt like. So it's just even in the picks they did make, don't feel like they're going to impact their team all that much.
Yeah, some people. I saw this one thing today saying there was an NFL. I don't know if he was a scout or just basically the report had said a guy has been in the league for about 35 years, and he likes Dazon Stribling more than Mekhi Lemon, which I personally don't think so.
That's a stretch and a half.
I think Stribling has the chance.
I did not know who the frick Stribling was until they drafted him. And that's on me too, but also kind of shows.
I've watched his tape. I know who he is. Ole Miss receiver. Not bad. Definitely not. It's surprising how high he was taken at 33rd or whatever it was.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the draft community have now boosted him up to that late first round, early second round type of tier for dynasty rookie drafts, which is interesting. And the one thing that does that, again, is the draft capital. But most people didn't have him that high. And the one thing that is going to have to be the decision by most dynasty leagues and players individually that are in that late first round, early second round is what exactly do you decide? Do you decide to go with your own ranking and sit there and say, yeah, we didn't, Dynasty community did not have him that high? Or do you decide to sit there and go with other rankings of now, like a Kyle Shanahan ranking, where you're now drafting him in the late first, early second of Dynasty rookie drafts
because
he was drafted by Shanahan at the 33. The weird thing, too, is the fact that they do have Ricky Pearsall and Mike Evans.
I was going to say they don't have a lot of targets to go around for him.
Granted, they did just lose Jawan Jennings, most likely to free agency.
Sure, and that could be another Jawan Jennings type of guy.
Sure, and Brandon Ayuk is also another guy that seems like he's on his way out the door.
Yeah, I kind of forget that he's even on the team.
Yeah, I don't know. He's definitely, in my eyes, he's not going to be, if he is right now, he's not going to be the start of the season. So, Stribling's an interesting name for multiple reasons. He's going to be the third guy on the depth chart probably to start his career there. But, those two guys ahead of him, Mike Evans is old and injury riddled the last few years, and Ricky Pearsall has not had a full healthy season yet. So it's an interesting, prospect just from that aspect.
Sure.
Were
there any other winners or losers or teams you felt like maybe got steals in the draft?
I thought the one team that was at least making good dart throws at multiple positions was the Dolphins.
Yeah, I feel that.
I thought they did decent at trying to, their skill positions are they traded Waddle. They have A-Chain, obviously. They tried to draft a few tight ends, and they tried to draft a few different wide receivers like Chris Bell and a couple other guys a little bit later in the draft as well. I think they drafted a total of two, at least.
Their quarterback is Malik Willis now, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, that makes it interesting. I give them credit for trying to make those stabs.
You know what I'll give them credit for? They're tanking hard for 27 in the best way. They're giving guys opportunities that deserve opportunities and could shock, but also high key, there couldn't be a better year to be doing all this.
Yeah, if we're really looking at pound for pound, team for team, Dolphins probably going to find themselves in a top 3 pick next year.
Most likely. Yeah.
Which, that's not necessarily a shot at Malik Willis. That's
no, at the organization and team, which, again, it's almost probably a plan by them at this point. Tua didn't work out. You reset the tables.
Traded Waddle. The talk of trading A-Chain, I don't know if that exists because he just.
I think it's at this point they're probably going to try to keep.
That's what the offense revolves around. So you got to give your fans something to come to the field and watch. But no, I think that I'm not going to say they had a great draft, but I think they made some good stabs.
Yeah.
To try to make.
I can agree with that.
Chris
for sure.
Bell is a great grab because
I was just going to say, didn't they get Chris Bell too?
Probably would have been a first, second round wide receiver if he didn't have his ACL tear at the end of the year last year. I really think the other team that at least made probably the right picks for their franchise, the Cowboys. Defensively, I think they made a lot of good grabs.
Yeah, they actually had a good draft.
Grabbing a couple of different edge rushers.
Yeah, I seen online. It's a good pick when your own, team rivals in your division are literally sitting there going, "Damn, they got Caleb Downs." Like, oh.
Yeah. Neighbor's not a fan of that.
No, not at all.
But
that's an elite safety prospect, which I don't blame
a lot of
him.
people have as the number one potential player from this draft, regardless of position.
Safety is just not as big of a need in the NFL usually, so that's why it doesn't.
Not as valued.
That's why it doesn't go to 12 or 11.
He went at 11.
11, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was a draft where teams definitely tried to make certain. Oh wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say
it's the L if you're trying to zoom out, but definitely an interesting draft for sure, to say the least. I'm trying to think of what else we could talk about within it, because there's definitely more than We have already, but I'm sure a lot of it we'll get into when we're going over more of the players too. Is there another guy you want to go over next?
I
think
a guy I had jump up my boards. I had him pretty low just because of the fact that he went to a little bit smaller school in terms of just the competition they play and whatnot. And the draft capital, I don't even remember exactly where, maybe fourth round, I think. But Skylar Bell, I think, is a name to keep an eye on.
okay.
Just in the fact that he had a great production where he was at. Again, not a big school where he was at, but I think the production was enough to warrant eyes being on him, as well as the landing spot. There's in Buffalo, there's not a clear cut number 2, 3 receiver. Shakir is there, and we know he can give good production, but I see him more as a slot guy, not so much as a Z or not so much as another outside receiver. Excuse me. That the Bills might need. Sure, they just traded for DJ Moore, but he's a little older now, and they're going to need to fill some type of role there. Keon Coleman is there as well, so. It may look murky based on the names there or based on the amount of people there, but I think Skylar Bell could easily just vault himself into some good targets, especially if the Bills end up deciding to move on from Keon Coleman this season if he doesn't start producing.
Sure.
So I think Skylar Bell is an interesting name. I think Jacoby Lane is interesting for those that trust Lamar as a thrower. They have Rashad Bateman as their number 2 receiver on the depth chart right now, but Jacoby Lane, I think, can easily take that job because Rashad Bateman is very much a receiver, similar style to Zay Flowers, where you're not really going to need 2 of those guys on the field at the same time all the time. I think you're going to want a bigger body receiver like a Jacoby Lane potentially out there doing what he does and making things happen on the outside as a contested catch guy, a red zone threat. He's definitely a name to keep an eye on. I also think Nick
Singleton.
Nick Singleton, we talked about a little bit. I think he's a guy that, maybe not this year, maybe next year because of the way the running back situation is year to year for the Titans currently. But the other name I really not necessarily love, but am intrigued by because I know Goddard, I think he's there for another year or 2 in Philly, but they drafted Eli Stowers with a good enough pick to make you sit there and go, okay. And again, he's got the receiving profile.
I say Stowers is probably my second favorite tight end.
He's the second tight end, I think, in this draft. I also think that Michael Trigg should warrant some looks from people just based on his athleticism.
Sure.
He wasn't drafted, but he was undrafted signing for the Cowboys, I believe.
Okay.
And sure, you could say they have Ferg there, but he's again
the Cowboys find good. I don't want to necessarily put them on this level, but the way that the Steelers find good receivers, I feel like the Cowboys generally find good tight ends.
Yeah, I think they had Schoonmaker before.
And he's never had a full opportunity, but he's not bad.
Ferguson's
clearly,
yeah. I think there's a lot to like in Eli Stowers' profile. I think he's a good receiving tight end that people should keep an eye on.
Definitely.
Specifically, the fact that we see Goddard's production.
Yeah.
If he could come anywhere close to that in that offense, he's worth the draft pick.
With the Jalen Hurts short intermediate throws too.
Exactly. And how many times last year, I couldn't tell you that I have Saquon in our dynasty and I'm sitting there at the 5 yard line or more, even further in 5 to 1 yard line. And I'm screaming at the TV, Saquon touchdown, please. I know it's going to happen. And what do? Some stupid play action and throw it to Dallas Goedert. So there's plenty of targets to go around, especially with AJ Brown being gone. We don't, we'll probably see Eli Stowers get into the mix at least a little bit. And I think the other intriguing name for me that is a nice deep dart throw, again, may have to wait a year or 2, but easy opportunity to become that number 2 back in this backfield right away. Adam Randall.
I don't even think I've heard that name.
I didn't think so. And this is a guy that I think he's a running back from Syracuse, converted from wide receiver, could be that next Antonio Gibson that a lot of people like to try to look for, take a stab at late in drafts. Easily in my opinion, favorite to be that second back behind Derrick Henry.
Okay.
Because of the fact that there's a lot of need for the receiving work out of that backfield still. I know is Justice Hill still there? I don't think he's there past this year if he is.
I would say that's a deep pull. I don't know if he'll even get much work if he is.
That's what I'm saying. Adam Randall I like as a shot for
I don't blame you.
Yeah, it says running back and kickoff returner. So, now we're looking at this now from a Justice Hill perspective. Like, probably not gonna. He only had 18 carries last year as it was, so he was purely the receiving back for them. But again, Adam Randall's profile very similar to Antonio Gibson, former receiver converted to running back. Great receiving profile as a running back. Obviously, if you're a converted receiver, that's going to be the case. And just someone that they can use at that second running back position in that offense.
Real quick, too, before we get into a few more of these draft profiles, I feel like part of the other thing with this class and why I think most people are so down on it, and in general, it feels like a weaker class. I started to notice there were names that I was scouting before the draft process that stayed in college because of that NIL money. And that's going to be something that frequently comes up more often than these drafts where all of a sudden less talent is there because it went to the next class or whatever the case might be. This class in particular, though, feels like a class that definitely got hit with that, where there's going to be a lot of guys.
This is the first class we're seeing the dramatic effect of NIL. Because the two things,
it's only going to make the 27 class better too, which is crazy.
What you just alluded to of people not going in 26 and reclassifying for 27.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing to pay attention with that is we saw a bunch of skill positions in this 26 draft go third round, fourth round, or later. We didn't see a ton of first and second round guys. We saw a lot of third, fourth, fifth round guys, sixth round, seventh round, even guys.
100%.
And I don't think that necessarily – you could say that's because this is a little weaker class, but I also think that that's because, again, NIL is causing guys to stay a little later. And some guys that can help, other guys that can hurt.
It hurts for sure.
And so, like Nick Singleton, if he would have came out a year or two ago or whatever – he was early before this season. He was regarded as like the top back or top two back in this class.
It's funny
and
that
now he's dropped all the way to the fourth round draft pick.
Yeah, almost fifth type of thing.
Yes, but again, the number one thing, these guys are going to come into the league a little bit older, which means
more experience too.
Number one, a little more experience, but number two, these NFL teams aren't going to necessarily feel the need to spend that early capital on them because they're an older running back. They're going to sit there and be like, all right, we could get this guy in the fourth because he's 23, 24 already.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to think about and to maybe we have to, as a dynasty,
adjust a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Adjust we saw it last year a little bit with guys like Krosky Merritt, guys like who's the other – there's a couple.
You could say Bucky almost the year before.
Yeah,
he was a smaller
you could even
school
say that's
too.
when it began.
Yeah.
In a sense where a lot of before this wasn't.
I would even, what's hilarious is when you were talking about Singleton staying and stuff, I feel like it truly began with maybe this guy back a couple of years ago. Maybe it was like 3 or 4 or 5 at this point. Before that, brother, Chuba Hubbard. That was, I think, even before NIL money became a real thing, and maybe it was around the same time. Yeah. But that dude was a baller the year before he went out, and everyone thought he was coming out that season that he was balling out in college. Chuba Hubbard was a beast in college. Then he stayed an extra year and had a pretty crappy season compared to the other two that he had before that.
Yep.
It ended up killing his draft stock a little bit. He ends up getting drafted to become the backup to Christian McCaffrey, I think, at the time. And then he finally gets an opportunity, and look how good he is. And it's the same kind of thing that I could see happening with the Singleton or a Katron Allen type of guy, where these dudes were pretty damn good in college, but then they were maybe sharing work or stayed because of NIL, and now all of a sudden they're a little older and they're getting drafted later, but the talent's still there. It's not like their talent's gone.
Yeah, I agree. It's like we said, going to be something we have to kind of adjust as time goes on to see if this is a continuing theme for future classes. Obviously, everyone's in on the 27 class as being this world-breaking, dynasty
ultra talented.
Very much could be, very much so is looking like it, but there's a chance that there's certain guys that don't pan out because of X, Y, or Z. We may see a bunch of guys start shooting up draft boards next year because of the fact that they stayed an extra year and they're trying to get that little boost of draft stock. They're trying to get that little extra, experience so that they can be a first rounder instead of a second instead of a third, and so on.
Yeah, definitely. We can maybe go over a couple more profiles. Is there anyone you wanted to go over in terms of we went over the top 5, I'm pretty sure, covered those guys. 6th is where we already talked about that 6 to 12 range is where you're starting to get in that, like, might as well take it. You're kind of throwing darts. There's nobody for sure that's, take this guy at 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. It's kind of your own preference.
I think there's leans.
Sure.
At 6, 7, 8,
Concepcion
9.
definitely is maybe one of those
Sadiq,
guys.
Mendoza, if you need a QB. I also think Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston. Jeremy Bernard that's another interesting one because I like the player.
Yeah,
but I don't necessarily.
I do have his profile
and
here
being
too.
behind DK and Pittman.
Yeah.
Granted, again, we don't know what's going to happen year to year.
We know
who
that
would
the
have guessed Alec
Steelers-
Pierce would be a wide receiver 1 coming into this season for his own team. So, that's going to be something that's also interesting to look at with these guys. I think that something to keep an eye on and keep a mindful mind, I guess, with is pay attention in the off season. Depends when you do your rookie draft. If you don't do it for another couple months, whatever the case is, or at least another month or so, pay attention to off-season reports. Pay attention to who's catching steam in OTAs, training camp. All these little things matter, and some stuff is smoke, some stuff is fire. So you gotta
be able to sift through it. Yeah. We'll definitely help do some of that here on the channel as well.
Yeah, there's guys like Devon Claiborne who you could easily see get opportunity because Aaron Jones is old and Jordan Mason doesn't have necessarily a ton of investment into him by the Vikings. Like, they could look at Claiborne and say, wow, if he produces just the same as Mason, why would they keep Mason and keep paying Mason? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different things, different players. Again, Adam Randall, like, he's a guy that you could easily look at and say, that's a guy worth taking a shot on because Derrick Henry's older and there's not a clear-cut 2 in that backfield.
Yeah.
Another guy that got drafted, Jam Miller. I believe that's Jamarion Miller, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure he goes by Jam now, or that's what he is going by. But he got taken by the Patriots, or he got taken in the 7th round. And again, we're not sitting here too worried about those guys, but pay attention to do your research. You don't want to be the person that misses out on the guy that blows up that was a 5th, 6th round pick because you didn't want to do the research. Don't be lazy. Don't give up on this class like I've been saying too soon. And if anything, give up once you've done the work. If you've done the work and you're like, I'm just not feeling it, again, like I said, trade that pick. It may be hard to trade these picks in this class. You may have to, if you really don't like this pick, you may have to sit there and go, you know what? No one's giving me a 27 first. No one's giving me a player that I like or a player that I value enough to trade a first for. You may have to go trade this first if you really don't like this class for a 28 first, a 29 first. You may have to trade out a few years if you're really looking to get some okay value. Analyze your team and where you're at. If you're a contender, go try to trade this late first for a depth piece that may help you now. Go trade a late first for an Alec Pierce. Go trade a late first for a Jordan Addison. Go trade a late first and maybe a third for a Jamison Williams in this. That kind of thing where you're going to try to get a guy that's going to give you good depth, good production most weeks. This late first is not going to give you elite production guys, but a late first can get you still someone that's going to benefit your roster if you're a contender. If you're a rebuilding team and you most likely have early picks where you can get these guys that we're talking about that are going to make an immediate impact, that are going to make a difference on your team and the team they just got drafted to.
Yeah.
If you're a rebuilding team and you don't, and let's say maybe in the past you've traded these picks, you don't have a 26 pick that's in the beginning. You may have traded it for now what is a late pick in 26. You may have to figure out what you're going to do. You may have to give up a stud piece of your team plus a first to maybe go upgrade to a little bit bigger stud piece. If you have, let's say, if you're a rebuilding team and you have a guy like a George Pickens as your wide receiver 1, or you have a guy like a Garrett Wilson as your wide receiver 1, and you're trying to move off of this first, don't be afraid to try to go offer Garrett Wilson in this late first to move up a tier in wide receiver. And you may say, oh, how am I supposed to do that? Go talk to your league mates. Go hit them up. You never know what a value might be to someone else unless you try to make that.
You definitely got to try.
So many people sit there and go, oh, I probably can't trade for this guy because of this. Bullshit.
I'll tell you this, back when Garrett Wilson got drafted, I wanted him really bad. He got taken the pick before me. I ended up taking Jamison Williams right after. But I still wanted Garrett Wilson.
You took Sky Moore the pick before.
I took Sky Moore the pick 2 picks after. Because I would have taken Garrett Wilson if he was there. He went before me.
You're right. It was Wilson.
Come on now. I wouldn't have taken Sky Moore over Garrett Wilson.
That's right.
But because I had Jamison Williams and Sky Moore from those next 2 picks, I ended up offering him the guy that drafted Garrett Wilson.
Literally instantly.
And he sent me back an offer that gave me basically Zeke was still sort of a thing at the time, and I traded Zeke and Sky Moore to basically get Elijah Mitchell, and Garrett Wilson, and a second. It was highway robbery, but he offered it to me.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We don't know that Lemon and Tyson and Tate are for sure going to be better than Casey Concepcion and Jonah Coleman and Denzel Boston. We think, and we have the right numbers and the right film and the right things in front of us.
Yeah, we've done the due diligence.
Yes, but there are these situations where, the 108 should have been the 104. Yeah. The 109 should have been the 103. Things of that nature. This draft is no exception. Despite 100%. How bad it might look, we may see Omar Cooper end up potentially being the 104, not in a draft, but post-draft in 20. Let's say a year from now, we may sit here and be like, man, Omar Cooper was such a steal, despite the fact that he has to now compete with Garrett Wilson. We don't know how these things are going to pan out. We could see the fact that we could see a Goddard injury and Eli Stowers ends up being the number one tight end. Sure. We don't know that. We don't know yet. Jadarian Price could easily run away with that job. Charbonnet all of a sudden becomes an actual 2 instead of what he was doing last year with Kenny Walker. And now Charbonnet is looking like a better pick than maybe all 3 receivers after the first year. Price is looking like a better pick than all 3 of those receivers after the first year, just because of the fact that his draft landing spot was there and he took the opportunity, and maybe the other guys, injuries, whatever the case may be. The point is, we don't know what the outcome might be. That's why you do your homework. That's why you do your research. That's why you sit here and watch these videos so that you can understand, hey, nothing is a sure thing. Nothing is guaranteed.
That's why you smash that like button and subscribe if you're enjoying as well.
So you can watch the future videos and be the first guy to realize, oh man, Chris Brazzell is going to break out. You want to be the first person to draft.
Well, we'll see with that one, but
I'm just
no, I know.
I'm
kidding. Do you want to go over Sadiq and Concepcion, or would you want to maybe save a 5 or a 6 through 10 kind of video for another day or tomorrow maybe?
I think we could go at least through those two. That's fine.
I would say maybe 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Sadiq, again, like we mentioned prior, is that there's just a ton to like about his physical profile. And he may not be the tallest tight end, but he's definitely gonna.
He's one of the most gifted athletically.
Yeah, easily. And again, the production wasn't necessarily crazy. Most tight ends.
No, and low key, I just checked the stats. It's a little off. He had 560 receiving yards. I know that says rushing, so apologize for that.
Yeah, we definitely made those a while ago, and I think he made a couple of them late at night, so you're forgiven.
Yeah.
But no, Sadiq is 100% the tight end to have in this class.
Yeah, his grade there I had is an 8.3 at the time. I can't lie. Watching his tape, I personally did not feel anything. I was not sitting there going, I love this dude. And I'm not saying he's not good. He's a very talented, athletic receiving profile as a tight end. He's clearly very good. It just, when you compare him to last year's class and how talented last year's class with Loveland and Warren was with the tight end position, and them going almost like 9 through 10 or 8 through 10 in their rookie drafts respectively, but being, in my opinion, far superior talents compared to Sadiq, that just kind of shows you that this is a little bit weaker of a class, where Sadiq is probably going in that 6 to 8, maybe 10 range also. There's almost the same kind of range that Loveland and Warren were going at. Yet I feel like comparatively, he's not the same prospect as those two guys.
I still think he probably would have been a decent prospect last year if he came out the same way he did this year.
Sure, he probably would have been third or fourth tight end. Though.
Yeah, and
he would have been maybe in the Fannin range. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the physical tools are definitely they're impressive to say the least. Like I don't think we can argue.
No. It's almost like if Anthony Richardson with his draft profile was a tight end. You know what I mean?
Except I would even like Richardson. The problem is that he didn't have much.
There was no production. Yeah.
The experience is lacking. Sadiq,
he at least has some production.
Yeah, and you can see in his physical tools and in his tape that he has an NFL-ready body.
Mm-hmm.
He's fast for a tight end, which I'm pretty sure the Jets wouldn't take him where they did without,
I would probably
people may not love this landing spot, but
no.
if we're being honest, I don't think there's a lot to hate about it. And specifically,
no, it's a lot like Fannin, like I was just saying.
You're getting a guy that's coming into a room, a receiver tight end room that needs help.
Yeah, it's literally Garrett Wilson and other rookies, quite literally.
Yes, so you could easily see Kenyon Sadiq be the number 2 target in this offense. Him or Omar Cooper Jr.
Yeah, and honestly, that might bolster the whole offense in general. Granted, we know
Gino.
What Gino, I would say, we know what Gino was doing with last year with the Raiders, but that's also not necessarily a bad thing. That's better than what the Jets had at quarterback last year. Even though Fields wasn't bad at times, he was really bad at other times because their offensive line was so bad as well.
I definitely, I'll say this about Sadiq, because I don't want to necessarily harp on him too long, because it's kind of what you see is kind of what you get.
Yeah, you're getting the top tight end in the class.
You're getting the top tight end in the class. You're getting the athleticism. You're getting the hands. You're getting, again, you may not be getting the 6'5", 6'6", 270 tight end that can do all these different things.
He went first round, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I thought
that's the other thing. He had first round, capital. And there's not a ton of weaknesses, I would say, in his game at tight end, because of the fact that he does have all those physical tools. he can easily make it something of himself. And
Yeah, he's a
become a
QB.
top 10 producing fantasy tight end.
Yeah, I like the evaluation I have here too. He's a modern moving tight end with strong route feel, reliable hands, and red zone awareness. I definitely think he's a pretty solid red zone target. Versatile alignment in terms of the fact inline slot motion. He can do a lot of stuff within the field and lining up against mismatches potentially. And then clean separation for the position and QB friendly target. I think that'll be one of the things that's like Fannin will help him probably the most coming into the league. Giving Geno an option to be able to find a dude up the middle and short intermediate area passes. Garrett Wilson definitely is capable of doing that, but it takes the pressure off of him of being the only guy to move the chains and get the offense moving. And then he does have touchdown-driven upside. He had eight this past season, if I'm not incorrect there. I'm pretty sure that's right. 8 touchdowns at tight end, that's pretty dang good in any season. His final grade, again, I gave him a 8.3 at the top of the class. Honestly, now I think thinking about it more, I probably would have given him 8.5, 8.6 range, but I do think the Jets does still probably bring him in that 8.3, 8.4. He's still talented, though. Some of these other ones that will be coming up, because Concepcion I have is probably the next one we'll go over.
I'll say this real quick about Sadiq. If you need a tight end, like if you're someone that needs a tight end in Dynasty, and you're really right in that middle part of the draft, in the rookie draft, I would have no hesitation taking Sadiq if I need a tight end.
Yeah.
Because of the fact, again, you're the only other one you may be able to take a shot on in the second or whatever round is Eli Stowers. And you can take shots on all the other ones, but the most efficient and most
productive in a sense.
Yeah, production you're going to get. If you're in the first round and you may need multiple positions. You may need wide receiver, tight end, and running back. You may be a rebuilding team that's in the middle of your draft, or a team that's hitting that rebuild button, and you may sit there and say, "Damn, I need kind of every position." If you need, let's say you're the 106 and you can't get Price, you can't get the top 3 receivers, and you can't get Love, go get Sadiq. Go get Sadiq. The only other player I would recommend at that 106 is probably Concepcion. But
those are probably
you need that tight end. Go get Sadiq.
Yeah, I know. I was saying, the 6 through 10 range. There's nobody that's set in stone, but definitely Concepcion and Sadiq feel
I think that's it. To me, that's
some of the better bets in that range.
They're a tier above the rest in terms of that 106, 107. You get to that 108, 109, 110, and you're kind of just situationally, you're hoping for a couple things to happen for those specific players. Like Denzel Boston, you could say, oh, well, he has just as much opportunity as Casey Concepcion. Well, he wasn't drafted as high. He's 15 picks after, which could make a difference in the end of the day. So, plus I like Concepcion more as a player anyways. I think he has elite ability to run after the catch. And I think he has a lot of traits you want in a receiver in the modern NFL. Like he may be a smaller guy, sure, but you see the production with 57 receptions and almost 900 yards on that.
Yeah, 9 touchdowns, 15.5 yards per reception too. He's definitely a high-end starter, impact wide receiver.
And he has design, like this says, design touches. Like you create certain types of plays for Concepcion because he has that ability.
It says not a hybrid running back because there's, like you said, with the design touches, there's a lot of times that I watching his tape, I saw him get it plays, the reception behind the line of scrimmage or around the line of scrimmage and make something happen with it, which he's very capable of doing. Primary possession, he's aligned slot Z, so he could do a little bit of the outside and a little bit of that slot usage. I feel like he maybe would be a better slot guy in the league. And that's even what I had there. Usage notes. He's a heavy slot deployment with Z flexibility.
I kind of wanted him to be the one that fell to the Bills.
That would have been cool for sure. With Keon and DJ, that would have been cool.
Yeah, but it didn't happen obviously that way. And
plus, come on now, Concepcion getting a reception, it just works.
Again, a guy that I'm a big fan of just watching his tape. He's a fun guy to watch. He's tough too. He's tough. He's not the biggest guy, but he's tough.
Yeah, I don't remember what his 40 is, but I definitely noted that his play speed is very different than his time speed. Like the dude looks different on tape than what you're kind of expecting. His separation
His 40
and
time
quickness,
is 4.43.
which isn't like world breaking, but also
It's good.
It's solid.
It's really
That's
good.
solid.
You
Yeah.
want it. If you're it says
It is good for sure.
4.43. Yeah, and he has ran as slow as the 4.5s. But again, like you said, it kind of just
His game
pops
speed's different. It's
differently.
different when you got pads on and guys are chasing after you.
Yeah, and to have 1,400 all-purpose yards and 12
That's
touchdowns
awesome.
in his final season. Now, granted, that can mean return yards, that can mean rushing yards, that can mean receiving yards. But again, to have that much impact and 12 touchdowns in your final season at Texas A&M, that's production.
Impressive.
That's production.
That is very good production. Definitely a guy worth taking in that 6 range. Browns is my only thing, like worry with him in terms of the situation. But
I think he's going to end up being wide receiver 1 there.
Probably, and that's the thing is I was going to say even then this is a case where you kind of want to bet on the talent more than just the situation.
Yeah, the other thing too, like Judy is there, of course, but one thing that even today I actually found out. Plus, Judy, if you really look at his production based on season to season, he's really only had 2 seasons to speak of production
of elite or upper
good production, yeah,
for sure.
Which was 2024 and 2022.
I would say a couple years.
If you're banking on every other year, sure, he may have a good year coming.
Yeah, he
up.
might have a good 26.
But he did lead the league in drops last year.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we got to kind of they wouldn't draft 2 receivers back to back if they didn't think their receiver room needed help.
Sure.
Obviously they have Fannin. Obviously they have Judy. I told you this last night. I do not care what people say. I think they will eventually move on from Jerry Judy.
I think it's part of you saying that. I think from what I saw, I'm pretty sure they were saying that the drafting of 2 receivers will not impact Judy at all. And both of us, sure, for this season, I'm sure that's the case. But as soon as
the future, it just screams for him to not be there.
Yeah.
At least probably after this season.
Most likely. We can probably move on from Concepcion, though. I definitely think he's a talented dude. If you want to go, should we do a running back just to do a tight end, running back, and a receiver, or do you want to go over a couple more?
I'll tell you this. You want to know who's next on my board?
Is it Jonah or is it Jeremy?
It's
Or
actually
Denzel?
Omar Cooper Jr.
I don't know if I have his.
I don't
Hold
think
on.
we do, or I don't think
I
we
was
do.
just say I don't know if I made it.
No. Well, there. So the thing, keep in mind, double down community, that Omar Cooper Jr. kind of exploded late into this process of the draft, and we knew about him. I knew about him during the collegiate season. There was if you watch the Penn State Indiana game, fantastic game, first of all. Second of all, you definitely saw Omar. If you watch that entire game, or if you watch any college football, you watch this highlight of Omar Cooper Jr. making possibly the most insane catch at the back of the end zone, tiptoeing his literal big toes right at the edge of the end of the back of the end zone. And that ended up winning them the game, or sealing them the game.
Yeah.
So with that being
if
said,
you didn't know as well, Cooper played with Indiana.
That being said, he's number 7 on Fantasy Pros big board. If you don't include Mendoza, he is number. Where is he for me?
Let me see if I can.
He's number 8 for me. Which is interesting. I feel like I have that a little differently than they do. Yeah, not including Mendoza. He's number 8 for me, which is very weird. Jeremiah Love, Cornell Tate, Jordan Tyson. Price. Concepcion, Sadiq. That's okay. So that's where I differ from this ranking. They have Sadiq behind Cooper Jr. I have Sadiq slightly over Cooper Jr.
Yeah, me too.
The
Probably.
draft capital says that as well. Omar Cooper Jr. is going to be a very fun player to keep an eye on because of the fact that he was a touchdown machine last year, getting 13 touchdowns, over 900 yards. And he is a Deebo Samuel prototype. And what I mean by that is the guy's going to catch the ball and make things happen after the catch. A yak monster, if I'm not mistaken. And the two things I really look to in his game, it is very hard to – he's a physical runner.
Mhm.
Very hard to bring him down. Doesn't have that elite end speed, but almost doesn't need it because of the physicality he runs with. And that's why he reminds me of Deebo. I hope for his own sake and fantasy's sake, he does not run into the same problems Deebo has in his career in terms of being that physical runner where you're going to kind of, run into some injuries sometimes because of that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it is very complementary to the style of Garrett Wilson, who is more of a smooth route running technician that has hands and can be explosive. It's the opposite. You want that physical runner. You want that guy that's going to give you that other dynamic into that offense.
Yeah, and
So-
you even see with the 3 rushing attempts that Cooper had on the year, he had 74 rushing yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, to have 24 yards of carry when you only have 3 carries.
Yeah, that's
Clearly,
good
though,
stuff.
that it worked because you don't have 3 carries for 74 yards for no reason.
Yeah.
He has over 1,000 yards from scrimmage
Yep.
because of that. 14
14 total.
touchdowns. It's just a player you want to invest in if you're a mid to late first rounder that can't move that first rounder. He's a guy that you're still willing to take that chance on. Again, to me, the second you start hitting the 109, 110, 111, a little more crapshooty, but Concepcion and Omar Cooper and Sadiq, very good, solid players to take a shot on still. They may not be your typical first round, mid first round, slightly late first round, but they are still good players. In other drafts, they would probably be 109, 110, 111 or 201 if you play a 10-team league. And it's just there's not a ton to sit there and be. Granted, as you see right here, a lot of his production came in one game against Indiana State.
I was looking at that. I'm like, whoa. 207 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, even if you the one thing to first say, is Indiana against Indiana State. Well, guess what? They beat him 73-0.
Yeah.
Most of it was Omar Cooper. And if you're going to sit here and say he played weak competition that game, guess what? Great people are supposed to do against weak competition. Dominate. Yeah, exactly. Dominate. So that's he did what you wanted to see.
Yeah.
Again, Omar Cooper Jr., I could see him creeping up to that range of being that, at least in this wide receiver class, right in that under that lemon tier, or
Sure.
that where he could get there, could very well get there. Probably not, but very well could, because he is a solid player, a fun player to watch, and again, just gives you that hard-nosed running style, touchdowns, extra yards, things you want to see from a physical fantasy
sure.
wide receiver.
For sure. Who would be next on your board after Omar?
My board next, I have, so again, not including Mendoza, because
single quarterback.
It's a toss-up, I think, between 2 guys, but right now, because of lack of injury, we'll say, I have Jonah Coleman right there, right behind Omar
Copy.
Cooper.
I thought that might be your next guy.
Yeah.
I did have his grade a little higher than I probably would now. He does, I will say, have that elite running back upside in terms of the fact, like, if given the opportunity, he could potentially run with it, and he could.
Oh yeah, his size, his 220 plus size, that screams I can handle a workhorse.
He could be a high volume workhorse, like I have his fantasy archetype there. He could be a PPR stud as well in the right.
Outlook.
And in the right situation, 354 receiving yards this past season on top of 758 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. That's 1,100 yards just on that.
Funny enough, real quick, it's funny because they have Dobbins, who's a really good runner of the football and can catch, but better runner. Yeah. Then they have Harvey, who's probably a better receiver.
Yeah,
and then they have this dude Coleman, who's
profile
quite literally a mix of both.
Yeah, he could be that. There was a point early in the draft process. He was probably the second or third running back.
A lot of people still have him as their second.
Or third even there, you see with my grade that I had given him at the time that he has the skills to be potentially elite and a true workhorse. I had their potential draft day steal. That's looking more and more like it could be true.
Fourth round. The fact that he went fourth round to the Broncos, nonetheless, number one, that shows. I think it definitely shows how they feel about Harvey. That they realize that he may be a piece, but not the piece that they're going to lead.
Yeah, it might even be a similar situation to Harvey, where I think they took him a little earlier than what people were expecting last year. But that was also because their coach had a real, vision with him. And I feel like he felt like it was a good pick at that spot. This is one of those situations where
I think it's probably more of a steal.
Yeah, it is a steal. You're like, they probably were not expecting necessarily to get Coleman in the fourth. And when that situation happens, it doesn't matter if you have Harvey or not. This is a guy that you can get that can help your team
right away. Yeah. Again, you look at this profile and you see over 1,000 combined yards easily with less than fucking 200, excuse my language, but less than 200 touches.
Yeah.
And 15 plus touchdowns,
just on the rushing side.
Yeah, well, that's why I say plus total. But personally, in the draft in the beginning of this rookie process, I wasn't super high on Coleman.
No, to start, I don't know if I even really knew of him much.
And the more and more I started watching, the more and more you see his contact balance, the more and more you see his receiving game, and he's just a good runner with the football. You kind of have no choice but to sit this. And the Broncos, like so many people might look at that as a weird landing spot. I think it's its opportunity to eventually be the guy.
I would say if the two of us are being honest.
He's one guy I would not mind trading into the late first to take a shot at if it doesn't cost a lot.
Sure. And so to kind of go with what we've been talking about this whole time, though, and in general, with the whole NIL thing, with teams not having a need at running back, because a lot of teams feel like they have their running back already, that opens the door for guys like this to potentially, there's not that much opportunity to go around at the running back position in the league. Mm-hmm. Broncos are one of the best teams to get drafted to if you're trying to get any semblance of opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're Sean Payton's going to give plenty of guys plenty of reps, and he'll find out who his guy is very quickly.
For sure.
The biggest takeaway I think from Coleman's profile is the fact that he can be fantasy relevant on both the ground and through the air.
Yeah.
And that's what's very intriguing. That's what keeps him potentially in that late first, early second convo for Dynasty rookie drafts. And I don't think people should be scared of should they be a little bit cautioned, have some caution because of the landing spot? Sure. But I don't think they should be scared.
No. I definitely think he'll be an interesting player, though. He'll be one of the more interesting later round first or early second picks to see how he ends up developing and turning out throughout the process. I don't know if either of us will end up having the chance to take that risk.
That's the one thing I'm almost sad about is that I don't really have a chance to go try to get him.
No. I mean, technically, in the big man league that we're in together, where it's a 12-team, like $200 buy-in or whatever, we run a team together where we ended up with the first and third overall selections. We're very running back needy at the moment, so obviously Love is going to be our pick at 101, but then 103, obviously with those receivers around there and with Price is an interesting spot. And the team at 2 definitely needs running back as well, and more so they need a quarterback. So we're kind of hoping that they get Fernando at 2.
5-point passing touchdowns too, so it's most likely that.
He probably will take Fernando at 2, but if there is the off chance he does take Price, we have so many good receivers at this point. I wouldn't hate trading back and maybe try and get Coleman,
and then
plus
maybe a pick next year. Like if we traded the 103 for a first next year and maybe an early second this year.
Yeah, we really need running back.
Our running backs last year was a bad situation, and I ended up trading. We had so many receivers that were so good. I ended up actually trading
a deal I wasn't too happy with.
You were very mad.
I was, because I wanted to. Look, I'm all about the value. I wanted to maximize the value as much as we could.
Basically, our trio of wide receivers in that league was Amon-Ra, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Malik Neighbors.
And Jefferson.
So our quad group. And we had J-Mo to go along with that.
Yeah, and J-Mo was breaking out this past season.
We felt, let's try to see what we could get for Amon-Ra, since he's the oldest of the group I think we have, other than maybe JJ. They're probably around the same age.
Yeah, and at the time we weren't as worried about 9. And
so what I did is I traded this one team for both the first rounders he had in 26, telling my brother, hey, this guy's team is not that great, this, and that. We could probably end up with a top 3 pick to try to get Love, because we need running back.
Yeah,
really
and
badly.
I was in on that. Don't hear what I'm.
But he wanted more value. Granted,
I wanted to get a second or third on top of it.
Sure, he did. But now that we got the 101 and 103 for Amon-Ra, I'm sitting here saying that's fine value on our end.
It worked out.
Yeah, especially because we're going to get Love and likely Price from it.
Yeah, so I can't be mad about trading Amon-Ra and turning him into Jeremiah Love plus.
Yeah, Jeremiah Love plus Jadarian Price, or a receiver at that spot, or more, whatever.
Yeah,
especially when we are running back needy. Again, this isn't an extremely great running back class, but if you're going to have 2 picks to get running backs, these would be
the 1 and the 3 are the picks there.
Yep.
Who would be next on your board? Because I'm trying to figure out who exactly to go over based on rankings or like ratings, draft grades that I gave. There's a couple dudes I could pull up. I think early in the process, Singleton would have been around here for me, but
next on my board is
Jeremy,
who should have been the first round receiver, but like I said, because of injury, he wasn't.
Oh, Boston.
No. Chris Bell.
He's okay. He is a receiver, huh?
Yeah, he was supposed to be first round.
I have him.
My estimation, he was definitely going to be first round, but just ACL tear kind of took that away from him.
Yeah, led to only 6 touchdowns as well.
You have an ACL tear and you're still top 3 round draft pick. Come on. The other thing too, what people have to look at with Chris Bell, if he comes into this season healthy at any point, he's going to have an immediate opportunity to be the wide receiver 1.
That's true. He went to the Dolphins, right?
Yep.
So.
He's a big 6'2", physical, big butt, like 220.
Yeah, he's strong and explosive.
Can run like the wind. The first ever play I seen from this dude was against Miami when Louisville beat them last year. Right up the middle, caught a ball, either stiff armed a dude or bounced off him and just kept going and ran all the way in. And I'm watching this play like, who the heck is this dude running like this? Sprinting down the middle with all this physicality. But I love Chris Bell. I think he's worth the shot in that late first, early second, mid-second if he falls there. Be wary of the ACL because maybe that could hamper some of his explosiveness.
Yeah, and also his ability to just come into the league and blow up right
away. Yeah, so maybe he falls in some of your rookie drafts because of that. Fine.
Plus quarterback situation. Not that I don't like Malik Willis. I think he could have some he has an opportunity to make something of his career here in Miami.
He's going to have all the opportunity in the world.
100%. And Bell is a dude I think that he definitely would enjoy trying to find as a target. Career receptions, he had 151 for 2,166 yards throughout college. He had 6 touchdowns this past season on 917 yards and 72 receptions. I gave him an 8.3. I'd be willing to even move him to 8.4 or 8.5. He definitely has big play upside, and for the evaluation, I agree 100%. He's big, strong, and explosive and built to win vertically, which definitely that says something. It's kind of a DK kind of prototype in that sense in terms of just big, strong, and fast.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he has the yak ability as well, to be the ability to make something happen after he catches the ball, which
it almost makes me sad that he did. In a way, it's weird because it makes you sad that he did get hurt because that dropped him to the Dolphins.
And since day 2 as well.
Yeah, but it makes you happy in a sense because you got a chance to get a guy that's really a first-round talent on an opportunity or a team with opportunity greater than most.
Yeah, and and this is something I've been trying to teach you, which I know that you said you've definitely been learning it. Dolphins could have a top 3 to 5 pick, like we were saying, next season, and there's a decent amount of quarterbacks coming into next year's class. This dude could easily have a much better quarterback as soon as next year.
Yeah, and they may end up getting another receiver on top of that, but that doesn't mean that. Yeah, Chris Bell's archetype, I think, is a very productive wide receiver 2 in the NFL with the potential to be like a 1B to someone's 1A.
Yeah, he'll be a great Z for sure, a great B for sure to somebody's A.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's a prototypical big body like speed receiver. We see sometimes it's a big body possession, but we also see these big body speed receivers, and he's exactly what that is. You see 72 for 917.
Yeah,
that's a lot. Great. That's a lot of production right there.
You think we've covered it with Bell?
Yeah, I mean, again, like we said, outside of that, the injury, it's definitely a guy we want to take a chance on if we have a pick to do so in that late first, early second, mid second, if he drops to that point.
Would you do? It's funny. A lot of the guys I have still coming up are all around this like 8.4 to like 8.6 range in my rating, which is funny because they're all probably drafted in similar ranges in terms of positional.
Probably going to be drafted similar ranges in dynasty drafts, rookie drafts as well.
Yeah. So the next 4 dudes I would probably go over. I don't know what your list has, but in terms of Denzel Boston, Jacoby Lane, Jeremy Bernard, and Chris Brazzell, I think all of them I have at like an 8.4.
And my next 4 on the list are Denzel Boston, Jeremy Bernard, Emmett Johnson, and Nick Singleton.
Emmett definitely is one of my next. And Singleton, I technically had as an 8.6, but again, that was kind of before some of the draft process started as well. Jeremy or Denzel?
You can do Denzel. He's drafted first.
Copy that.
I think.
I believe he was as well. He went to Washington.
Just like Jonah Coleman.
Indeed. I had him as an 8.4, a high-end starter / boundary wide receiver. He has reliable volume, strong red zone conversion. His profile is 6'4", 209, so he's got a big, long frame and legit catch radius. He's above average play strength for position as well. His role would probably be a primary position of outside X receiver, aligned boundary receiver. He's definitely a trusted one-on-one target and red zone and third down weapon. And he's another guy that, similarly to Concepcion, design touches, not an elite sudden separator, press technique, consistency, but when schemed or isolated rather than asked to win instantly, he's pretty dang good. And
I think the one thing that he gives more than most of these, like a lot of these receivers in this class, obviously his size. The other thing is the fact that the elite separation is not there, but he makes up for it with the contested catches.
Yeah.
And the fact he could go up and get the ball that's in the air. He's not like we see guys like Quentin Johnston, where he's that 6'4", 210 frame, 200 frame, but he's not really going up and getting balls like that. He's almost more of a slot guy for his size, which is weird. Denzel Boston is much more true to that 6'4" frame of a big body receiver, where you may not see him be wide open because he's separated because of his routes, but you may see him wide open in terms of, hey, this little body corner is on him. Go toss it up. He's going to go grab it.
Yeah, it's something I've always seen in guys like George Pickens in a sense. Granted, George Pickens is a little bit more of a separator than Denzel Boston is here, but George Pickens is definitely one of those guys that can high point it and contest over damn near anybody in the league. And with that, and with Denzel Boston's frame, one of the things I definitely think he's strongest at is that red zone conversion and ability. Like it says here, and like I talked about, 11 touchdowns is all you need to see with that in terms of his ability to score. His archetype is even a touchdown-driven outside wide receiver, which scares me a little bit in terms of the sense that, like, that's the kind of profile you think of with, like, a Mike Williams?
Mike Williams.
Yeah, the guy that used to play with the Chargers. But at the same time, I feel like he's got a little bit more ability to be able to be a touchdown scorer, even more than Mike Williams was. And I definitely think he's more of a red zone threat than Mike Williams was, which, again, 11 touchdowns in general, that's incredible work. That's where his potential upside can come from is that ability.
Yeah, I think the other thing too to take note is a lot of people are going to make a big fuss, including a little bit myself. The more I've thought about it, the more I've come to terms with that. It's not as bad as most people probably think. The fact he's drafted to the Browns right after Concepcion, essentially 15 picks later, makes you kind of sit there and go, damn, like I wish they were on separate teams so they could be individually.
Yeah, they're not
more
hindering
productive.
Each other's production.
Correct.
100%.
The other thing to look at, though, is, again, like I keep saying, I think Judy's going to be on the way out at some point, and it's going to be the two of them. And you cannot get two receivers that complement each other probably better.
Yeah, 100%.
Concepcion is that small, quick, still physical, but like he's the opposite play style.
A little more of a separator, whereas Denzel is that dude that's going to high point and contest it. Yeah,
and you want one of each on the field. Kind of. It's.
Yeah, I think the Browns
Look at the Cowboys style of CD and George Pickens, the Bengals style of Jamar and T.
Yeah, honestly,
trying to follow that kind of situation.
Honestly, thinking about it more, like I love what the Browns did here in terms of trying to get their quarterback some actual weapons and help. Yeah. Like, who the frick are you going to guard on a play-to-play basis? You have three, really talented receivers and
a good tight end,
a great tight end,
on top
and
of a good running back.
I would say two good running backs because I think that Dylan is even a great receiving back. Which, that just makes it hard to guard anybody on a passing play. Yeah. Definitely intrigued with Boston, though. I'm not super big on him myself, but I see the intrigue. I see the red zone ability. I see how he can be a great potential player on the Browns. And I see the path. I just personally, I'll say I'm not as into him.
I think he's, again, another guy like we've been talking about, late first, early second of your rookie draft, where probably worth most. And again, we haven't really mentioned this because we said a lot of these guys are crapshoots, dart shoots, things, guys.
Yeah, and some of that situation, if he went somewhere else, he might be a higher selection.
But again, what I'm going to get at here is that some guys are going to be a little bit better crapshoots than others.
Yeah.
This Boston falls under that category where I feel like once you pass receiver wise on this list, Fantasy Pros list, at least once you get past Chris Bell, it's Chris Brazel, Zachariah Branch, Elijah Surratt, Malachi Fields, Jacoby Lane, Skylar Bell. Those are, in my opinion, the next tier down underneath a guy like Chris Bell or Denzel Boston. There's three tiers of receivers to me. It's the Carnell Tate, Tyson, and Lemon tier, Then you got the Concepcion, Omar Cooper, Denzel Boston, and Chris Bell tier. I think those are all in a tier together. And then after that, it's like Jeremy Bernard is almost in a one by himself because he's good enough to be a part of the tier above him, but he's also in a weird landing spot, so it kind of separates him below them. And then you got Brazel and the rest, in my opinion, or Zachariah Branch or Surratt and the rest. And those guys could be better than the guys above them in the second tier, but it's, in my opinion, for now, better to take a shot on those second tier guys if you have that second round type of pick. I'd be willing to take a shot on Zachariah Branch, or Jacoby Lane, or Malachi Fields, or Skylar Bell.
Chris Bell, even. Yeah.
Well, I'd take the chance on Chris Bell before all those guys I just mentioned,
100%.
even before that.
Yeah.
So, there's guys that are, again, they're worth a crapshoot. They're worth the shot to try to make something happen for your late first if you can't move it, or if you can't figure out how to upgrade that to a player that you really want.
Yeah.
There are guys that, again, don't give up on the class. You're going to hear me say that a million times. But it's really a thing. There's so many times in the past where I sat there in rookie drafts and was like, not giving up, but sat there and was like, well, I can't, I only know this guy or this guy. There's been drafts where, like, you in the past have gotten.
I would say in the last couple of drafts, I've had some steals in terms of almost every draft. And last year, I think I selected Jackson Dart in the third.
Yep.
That's a steal now. I didn't keep him, unfortunately. That's my fault. The year before, I'm pretty sure in like the second to last round, I drafted Drake May. And I was on him when it felt like a lot of other people weren't. And granted, I'm not as big of a fan now, but clearly fantasy-wise, he's produced and he's good. And then the year before, or I think either that same season or the year before, I drafted Laporta with my second to last pick in the entire draft. And I think in the third round, I also got, what's his face on Tampa Bay? Bucky Irving in the third round as well. So just if you're on top of stuff and actually researching deep into these drafts, you can find guys every season that are going to be steals. And
last year, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, if you told somebody a 7th round running back was going to give you 150 fantasy points, you would look at them crazy.
Yeah, and high key.
But it happened.
There's a guy I loved last year, Dylan Sampson, who, granted, the first couple of weeks he looked incredible because Joe Flacco was checking it down to him so much. There was no Judkins. The path was there for him to actually have a role. And then Judkins came back and was like, "Nah, dog, I'm him. I'm him."
Yeah, no,
but there's guys like that still, and even in this draft, there's definitely going to be some guys like that are going to fall through the cracks and have opportunity and are better than people expect, or better than people are projecting currently.
So I promise you, there's at least 5-6 names in this draft beyond the top 10 to 12 that I would love to have a shot to draft, because why not?
Yeah, real quick too.
Especially the fact if you're in a dynasty or a keeper league, you're most likely you don't have enough roster spots to keep the entire same team you had last year. You're going to have guys on your bench that are either in new situations that could suck even worse, could be better. Like for me, I had Brian Robinson Jr. last year because of the fact that I have Christian McCaffrey. I had the handcuff because I needed it,
100%.
Especially this late in McCaffrey's career. Now Brian Robinson Jr. is the Bijan handcuff. Similar idea where you're behind an elite running back and you could use this guy if the elite running back gets hurt. But because I don't have Bijan, now a guy like that isn't necessarily as valuable to me as he was last year.
Yeah, when you had McCaffrey.
So I'd much rather have a shot on a Chris Bell or a Nick Singleton or even a Katron Allen.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that Brian Robinson is behind that elite guy right now, and those other guys have the opportunity to actually explode. I'd rather give me the opportunity all day.
So we do have another question in the chat before we get to it. My boy Timothy put, is he over his love trauma yet? No, I'm not. Thanks for asking, though. For anyone curious, I've been following Jeremiah Love for 2 years, basically, since that Indiana 98-yard rushing touchdown. I remember watching it live and just thinking, I need this guy. And I fell back in love with him this past season as soon as my brother started to figure out he was a thing. And it was like, yeah, no, I need this guy. And so I've made it a mission the past year in my, back-to-back Dynasty runs to try and find a way to get Jeremiah Love still. And it has not worked out. The guy that got the first overall pick in our league, because the way we do it is very different than most leagues, he ended up getting that first pick, and he was kind of for a couple months like, yeah, I'm willing to maybe ship it. And the haul that the two of us were offering, because we're both very in on Love, was hitherto undreamt of in terms of dynasty offers. Like, I don't think there's ever been a dynasty offer.
Oh no, what we were offering for this number one pick was that most people would sit there and accept it the second that we sent it.
Yeah. No, we were offering Godfather offers that have never been offered.
Godfather offers.
Literally, like, you would probably laugh at us almost for offering it.
Sure,
but at the same
if you saw the
time,
construction of our team, you'd be like, "Oh,
okay, this makes sense." Yeah.
There's another question too.
That was the one I wanted to pull up. But yeah, no, I'm not over my Love trauma yet. It's very traumatizing still.
Thanks for the question, though, Tim. We always want to bring up his traumas, help him get through them. The next question though says this guy ASET7YJ. Sold Shador and Pittman for Stowers and Claire and Dynasty Superflex. Thoughts? My first question before I get into it, is this tight end premium?
That is a good question.
My second question is, was it just straight up 2 for 2, or did you get picks involved at all? Also, who is your quarterback now that Shador is gone?
Yeah, was Shador actually an impact for you at all?
So to me, the best player in the deal is obviously going to be Pittman. And because it's super flex, you could argue the second best player could end up being Shador. But Pittman Pittman is the oldest. Tight end premium runner, was 112. Stowers and Claire. So because it's tight end, Burrow. We love that you have Burrow. Yeah. That's why I'm a Bengals fan.
Burrow's
Caleb.
My guy. Burrow and Caleb is crazy.
Yeah, we love your quarterbacks. We don't mind you moving off. Shador then at that point is a
luxury.
Is a throw-in to that guy you got the deal for.
Who cares?
Max Claire.
I guess it's super flex though, so you are starting two quarterbacks. I get.
No, but Shador's on your bench anyway.
Yeah.
You could find another Shador. I'm not mad at that.
No.
Where did Max Claire go? That is what I forgot. So I need to find out where is Claire.
That's not the guy that was
He's the tight end for Ohio State.
Oh, I remember him getting drafted. Was it? I feel like it was.
Oh, Rams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the thing I'll say about that, pretty crowded tight end room with, I think, Higbee, Ferguson, and now Claire. Claire probably could end up being the guy there, I think. Him and Ferguson, Higbee's he's older.
My other question, real quick, not to cut you off too much. Who's your tight end currently? Because that is the most important. That's probably why you're trying to do this trade. But that's
he did it already.
Oh, he did it.
Yeah, it says right here that he traded.
Oh, that's right.
Shador.
That's right.
He traded Shador and Pittman for the 112 and 301.
Yeah.
Which became Claire and Stowers.
Yeah.
He probably had a need a tight end, which is where the tight end premium comes.
That's why I was wondering.
Stowers. So because it's premium, because you have the grinding Goddard.
You're just playing with house money.
Yeah. The fact you're playing with the house money.
No, I don't mind it then.
You did right because now you have the successor to Goddard with Stowers.
Yeah, that's great.
And Claire is now going to take that spot that Stowers is in right now. In a couple of years, Claire will be that Stowers spot. Goddard will be phased out.
The only thing
and you'll end up still having three really solid good tight end.
Who was it that the Rams drafted last year at tight end?
Ferguson, like I
yeah,
said.
yeah. Okay,
That's-
I like Ferguson, and that's the issue. That is a very tight. I know you said it already too, but very
Yes,
crowded
good
tight
value.
end room.
Yes, for aging Pittman.
The
The fact that you still get a first for him, and the fact that we don't know if he's going to be the number one target in Pittsburgh.
I don't mind the shot at Stowers either. High key,
if anything, you are now like supplementing the position that you are already good at, but half of that position for you and Goddard was aging. So now let's get younger. Let's make sure you don't have to worry about a backup or a situation.
Honestly, props to you because it reminds me a lot of a move I made last season where I had just come off.
Reminds me of the moves when you traded Tyreek and AJ.
High key.
Because you had
little different because the value's obviously different.
Sure, but more in terms of supplementing your positions so you have something everywhere.
So one of the things I've tried to do since our league is a 10-man, there's no tight end premium, there's no super flex, it's just one tight end, one quarterback. Because it's like that, the last 2 seasons, something that I've actively tried to do at points is try to monopolize the tight end position as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, you have a ton now.
Yeah,
we're the complete opposite when it comes to that. I have one tight end on my roster that I'm actually going to most likely keep into the draft.
This season,
like 4.
I'm probably not going to keep all that many of them at the end of the day, which is unfortunate.
You're probably going to have to keep 2.
Yeah, I'm probably. Well, there's 2 that I'm definitely keeping already. Which
definitely Laporta.
I have Laporta as my one, and Loveland is the dude that I took last year, which is what I was talking about in terms of I was actively trying to monopolize the position. I wanted either Warren or Loveland as my second pick last year, and I made it a trade to be able to get up and take one of them. Granted, I didn't want the decision on my hands, so I actually traded from the 10 back one spot to let the guy above me pick Warren so that I didn't have to be the guy that picked Warren over Loveland because I liked Loveland a lot.
Yeah, and then the end of the day too, like the
or Loveland over Warren for that matter. That's why I was like, well, if I can move back one spot and still get the tight end I want, that's a no-brainer.
The other thing too that you're doing with this trade is sure you may be trading your third quarterback, but now you're getting a third tight end that is in a position where if you're going to compare your quarterback situation to your tight end situation, you need another tight end compared to, sure, you have McBride and Goddard, but again, we talked about the age. We talked about the fact that
McBride you're set with. That's kind of a setting for good.
But Burrow and Caleb is definitely a stronger positional section for you than McBride and Goddard because of the age and longevity that they're going to give.
The nice thing though too is having a guy like McBride that is probably the best at the position, or top three easily. Having that ability actually lets you potentially even go flex if you really want to. Granted, I don't know if this is a flex and super flex league. I'm pretty sure that's usually how it's formatted. Is there's going to be 2 receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, flex, and then a super flex. So if that's the case, you still have the option to even put McBride at your regular flex position and have a guy like Stowers or Goddard that you can still rely on and trust at tight end.
Yeah, because McBride is not. He doesn't play like a tight end, in terms of production and fantasy. Also, real quick, I'd like to give a shout out to my boy Adam Fusilier in the chat. Definitely,
good to see you,
good to see you in the comments. Miss you, my guy. Hope Colorado's treating you well. Did not expect you to be there, so a quick shout out to you and everyone else too in the chat. We appreciate you guys that have definitely
sticking around and hanging with us,
or even just in and out. Like hey, who cares? Do your thing. We know everyone's got busy lives, and we appreciate you though for joining in and taking the time out of your day to comment or just stay even for a few minutes if that's all you got.
Definitely. I was trying to think if there's any more we could add on to that comment, or in terms of
I love the trade. I do
too.
On the surface,
I'm not big on Pittman right now in terms of his value.
Again, on the surface, it looks strange because if you're going based on name face value, you lose.
Yeah, you're sitting there going, I got 2 rookie tight ends, but it's
for a quarterback that's starting in the NFL and wide receiver that's starting
good.
in the NFL.
Yeah,
that's
a
good.
Good receiver.
But when you go deeper into who is on his team and how the trade
the
panned
roster
out,
construction matters for sure.
every time. Make sure your roster construction gets you to the point where you understand what you need, because people could sit there and go, oh, I love this player, but you may be full. You may have 12 receivers, whatever, that are just so good that you may have the luxury to you may be able to trade some receivers. If you, let's say you like Cornell Tate and you're picking in the top of the draft and you already have 5 receivers that are considered borderline elite to elite, you may trade one of your elite guys, or you may trade the pick for something more to try to get running backs, monopolize positions, like you said. Try to create a team where your depth, no matter who you are rolling out there week to week, you are confident in the plays that you are making.
Yeah, the two of us have done an incredible job, I would say, in terms of trying to get the depth to have those championship rosters and be able to make runs. It's not always an easy thing to do. Sometimes it just works out. Personally, like in terms of roster construction and being able to do stuff with my traumas of love, I'm blessed with the roster and being able to have made incredible rookie picks over the last 3 or 4 years that have led me to where my team is so young and talented right now that I was able to offer 6, 7 first round picks. Maybe it's only 5, but it was a total of like 8, 9, pick selections over the next 5 years that I was willing to offer, because I've had so many good picks over the last couple of years. I don't feel like I, need first in the next couple of years to be able to compete like that. So I was willing to do some massive haul with like 8 picks, to get Jeremiah Love. And I was only really feeling like I'm comfortable and able to do that because of the roster construction I have and being as deep at every position as I personally want to be right now.
Just goes right back to the fact that I keep saying, don't give up on drafts. If you give up on a draft class, even though it looks terrible, you're gonna miss somebody that ends up. You're gonna miss the steal of the draft in a rookie draft. Our rookie draft goes longer than most because of the fact that
as of last year we started.
It's also like a hybrid keeper style.
It is, yeah.
It's a hybrid keeper dynasty to where we keep 16 out of our 23 roster spots.
Yeah.
And then we do like a 7 round draft where you're kind of like, there may not be enough rookies to pick all those rest of your spots. So you're picking, maybe a defense, a kick. We still do kickers.
Yeah, we don't always, you don't have to keep one of every position. So you don't have to keep a kicker or defense or all your tight ends or whatever the case is.
Yeah, so your last, our draft goes a little differently. It's not necessarily the typical 3 or 4 round rookie draft you might see.
Yeah, we have a 7-round selection with players that have been in the league available as well.
Yeah, but you see guys all the time. Like I remember I got Cedric Tillman in the 5th round, and granted he hasn't panned out to be anything crazy, but he's still a guy that has had moments randomly as a 5th, 6th rounder in the rookie draft. Hey, some people could use that, on the roster. Krosky Mayer, like I said, 150 points from the 7th round into now, having a couple of weeks where you're like, man, I could have used this guy this week.
Shoot, if I started him over, I think I made a terrible start that week. But if I started him in my last week in the championship, I probably would have won in a different league.
Yeah, but it just goes to show can't give up on guys. Can't sit there and go, woe is me for this draft class. You just got to strap down and do the best research you can. These guys did not make the NFL for no reason. That there's still going to be some productive players in this class. But
100%.
It's about, like we keep talking about, doing the research and finding them. Another guy, late shot. I'm not going to talk too much about him, but he was on a lot of big boards. He was a top 60 to 70 player in the draft. In the NFL draft, and he fell to like the 6th round. Deion Burks, that's a dude from Indiana, that wide receiver. Again, the Colts picked him very late, a lot later than I think a lot of people expected. Just do your research on these guys. Make sure you see, all the way down to a guy like Barry Brown, a guy like Cyrus Allen picked to the Chiefs. You never know what you're going to find, who's going to come out of where. They pay attention to the OTAs, like we say.
Heck, Emmett Johnston that went to the Chiefs.
Yeah, Emmett Johnson, great option for potential receiving back.
Yeah, even though they have Ken Walker, you never know.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about how Kenny's quote unquote weakness is his receiving game, and they're going to need potentially a receiving back if the Chiefs feel that same way. So you got two guys back there, the Emmett Johnson and Brashard Smith, who can do exactly that. So you might end up seeing more work for one or both of them than you might anticipate initially.
I think that was all the comments we had for now. We have been going almost 2 hours, 40 minutes.
Quite
so
a long time.
We'll probably get out of here in not too long. Is there anybody you wanted to go over still today or anything else you wanted to add on? We can maybe even get into some of the slates of the rest of the sports, talk about a little bit of playoffs for NBA and NHL, because hockey, they've been pretty entertaining so far. I've enjoyed thoroughly.
Yeah, chat about the slate for today. A couple of games, I guess pick like 3 each if you'd like, or 3 legs each.
Definitely. I know today the Hawks and Knicks play. I don't know if I really want to take either team. I think the Knicks might win, especially they're back home, if I'm not mistaken. And I had Jalen Johnson has been great for me lately, but I think the other day when they played, he was the only leg that did not hit for me. I needed him for 15 points, and he got 14. I don't give a fuck. Take him for 15 today. There's no way he's not getting it.
It should be fun. It should be a fine take there. Jalen Johnson does his thing most nights.
I mean, the price isn't incredible or anything, but he should get 15 points regardless. I don't think he's getting 14 again. Sixers and Celtics play again. Celtics have the home for NBA playoffs tonight. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are incredible plays lately for taking their over in points or taking their points at 20 or 25. The two of them are easily reaching to that lately. Spurs play the Trailblazers tonight as well for Game 4. Currently, San Antonio leads 3-1 in the series. I could see them closing it out tonight. Dylan Harper has been playing excellent. I think both of us are very in on him to get 10 points tonight as well.
Yep.
That closes out the NBA slate for today and for the playoff games today. Thunder swept the Suns yesterday. I think the Rockets will probably get taken out maybe the next game or two by the Lakers, now being 1 game away from losing for a little bit. I mean, they were 1 game away from the last game too, but
yeah.
I think the Lakers closed that series out, though. I don't know how they've done at this point.
If Breeze comes back healthy tomorrow, it should be hopefully that is a boost for them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting series against the Lakers and Thunder too. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But as far as hockey, moving on to that,
Bruins and Sabres is our first
big fan
game.
of the Bruins today.
Bruins. I was going to say, I thought you were on the Sabres.
Big fan of the Sabres today. Bruins they had the 1 game. The first game, they kind of showed some promise. Next game, I can't remember if they won that game or not. Either way, I'm looking at this game with the Sabres coming back home.
It's 3-1 in the series
to end
too.
The series,
yeah, I think they probably finish it out
I
tonight.
think that's
too.
one of my favorite plays today. Take a -1.5 the plus money.
Yeah, personally, I'll be staying away from the Wild and Stars game. That series,
I like the Stars to bounce back.
I like them at home.
I think that series is quite literally like one team wins, the other team wins.
It's going to be a battle the entire time.
All the way to 7 games.
Probably.
If you want to bet that to be a 7-game series, that's probably the best bet.
That is probably a good bet.
The other game for hockey, McDavid, we don't know if he's playing or not. Oilers, Ducks, Oilers at home.
Yeah, they're back at home.
I think regardless, there's a lot of smoke probably involving that news. I think that's to try to get people to bet on the Ducks. I also think the over is going to hit. The over hasn't missed in that series. I don't think one game.
Yeah, I could see the Oilers pulling it out tonight, but I
They're
definitely,
at home, you know.
yeah, I don't think they win the series. No, I think Ducks have this in the bag at this point.
As far as series, I have no take on the series, but as far as tonight, I have the Oilers.
Yeah, that's fair.
As far as baseball, I'm looking to the Yankees and Cam Schlittler to get the W over Jacob deGrom, even though he's one of my favorite pitchers. The offense for the Yankees has been
DeGrom
humming.
is pitching today?
What's that?
DeGrom is pitching today?
DeGrom versus Schlittler.
A Nerfy is not a bad look in that game.
Nerfy for
High
sure.
key.
The only problem with that is you're facing Aaron Judge.
Yeah, of course, and that is terrifying.
First inning home runs in the last
for sure.
years. Definitely scary proposition there, but at the same time, like I said,
yeah, sometimes you take risks.
Yankees offense is probably going to take over, regardless of DeGrom. If DeGrom and Schlittler can match each other, I'm back in the Yankees offense rather than the Rangers offense. If you're going to say, "Oh, who's going to win against the bullpens?" I'll take the Yankees offense.
Sure. So far, we have Rays Guardians going at the top of the fourth. Also, real quick, Rays have 2 men on. There's 2 outs. Astros are losing 2-0 to the Orioles.
I like the Orioles today.
Yeah, I think Orioles pulled that out. Reds Rockies is 3-0 Rockies right now. Yeah, the Rockies should probably lose that, even though they've been pretty good this year.
Better than advertised, but still not great.
Yeah, they've had some shocking
Reds
moments.
have been playing great baseball.
Phillies Giants is tied at the top of the third. Giants have a man on second and 2 outs as well. And then Cardinals are currently beating the Pirates by 1 at the end of the second. And Red Sox Blue Jays is tied at 0.
I'm not mad at a live bet on the Pirates if I think they bounce back today.
Yeah, we were both kind of on them yesterday too, and then they freaking blew it in the 9th inning.
Bullpen,
yeah, four runs allowed. That was nuts. And then, Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Nationals, Mets are both tied at 0. Mets have been terrible lately, but come on, the Nationals are just as bad. They should probably beat them. I'm not trying to be
the worst record in the league.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put too much money on the Mets there. I'm probably don't anybody or myself. But
Clay Holmes against
they're both garbage.
Littell.
Take the under.
Littell's been terrible. Littell's been terrible. Clay Holmes has been great. Personally, for the price, Mets probably still aren't even worth it, but I'm not putting my money on either team. I'm staying away.
Other games later today, we have Cubs Padres. That's an interesting series.
Big on the Cubs here today to bounce back after yesterday.
Yeah, they are favorites after losing yesterday too.
Bueller's has been 5+ ERA. Not
garbage. We hopefully win that then. I'm a Cubs fan.
Oh, Pirates now trail 2-0 after a home run by Victor Scott for the Cardinals.
Tigers Braves is one of the next games after that. I don't know if I necessarily want to touch that. Angels White Sox, I kind of feel the same way. They're both teams this year that have players that can make big offensive impact, but at the same time, I don't trust either team's pitching very much. Technically, Angels are the favorites right now, but I don't even know if I like that. Murakami goes off all the time.
The pitcher for the Angels has allowed 1 run all year, I think.
Okay, so that's probably why they're the favorites as well.
Angels playing decent ball.
Yeah, they have. Both teams have been playing all right. They have a similar record. Diamondbacks Brewers is another game coming up. Mariners Twins, Athletics Royals, and then Dodgers Marlins finishes off our MLB slate for the day. I don't know if I want to touch a lot of those. I think Dodgers maybe usually a good look. They're going to win more games than not this season.
Yeah, I thought Tony on the mound is not a bad game.
Yeah. Athletics Royals is interesting.
I think the Twins are a decent look today. Gilbert's been all right, but I prefer Joe Ryan in that pitching matchup, and the Twins are plus money at home. I like the Brewers much better than the Diamondbacks. And I think I like the A's over the Royals this evening.
That's fair. I think I was just about to say that one is interesting to me. They're both pretty close on the lines, but I kind of agree with you there as well. And that's probably going to do it for our slates today. The Celtics Sixers did just start. I don't think there's any other players I would maybe take. The only other thing I would have maybe done is Maxey 20. But again, those prices and that game already started as well. So you'd have to take it like right now.
Get him for 25.
Yeah, it's probably a better bet anyway. But yeah, I think that's everything that we have to cover today. Tomorrow night, the Mammoth and Knights will be playing in Game 5, so that'll be interesting and a good series so far. I think it maybe even goes to 7. We'll see. And then NBA, what do we have tomorrow and coming up? Raptors, Cavs again, Magic, Pistons, Rockets, Lakers tomorrow. So those will be some good games. Yeah, there's some more news coming in the NFL as we reach closer and closer to the off season here, really getting into full swings now that the draft has happened. And I think there's definitely a lot more excitement to come here on the Double Down as well. And stay tuned. We'll probably cover the rest of some of our rookies that we have profiled out here tomorrow or in the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that. Actually, tomorrow I'll be working that Game 5 for the Golden Knights. So probably not tomorrow unless it's early enough. But stay tuned. Definitely smash that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for hanging in here with us. You have anything else to add? Any players you want to leave people with, or any last thoughts to leave people with?
Like we've been saying all day, do your research.
Don't give up on the draft.
Don't give up on the draft. It's okay to give up on a player here or there. Like, I'm not sitting here telling you to love everybody.
There's a portion of the draft mentally I've kind of checked out on, partially because I don't have any picks in that range either.
And that's something too that I'm never going to be mad at someone for checking out at some point in the draft because of that.
Yeah,
but
granted, you could still move up to
it
take
doesn't
a
hurt
guy
to do
or
your
whatever.
research anyways.
100%, and you should. And that's the thing. You even said earlier today, make sure you do the due diligence to have that opinion of being like, yeah, I am out on it because you've done the due diligence.
Otherwise, you're going to miss out on an Amon Ra. You're going to miss out on a Laporta. You know, these are the greatest feeling in the world in Dynasty. And we all know it too. We all know it because we all tried or we've
done it, yes. And we know it.
Is hitting on that dude that's not the first or second round pick. It's the third, fourth, fifth, whatever round that's late.
Getting them late in your draft and hitting.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden you have a fourth, fifth rounder that's so like you could trade that for now a first or second.
Oh yeah,
because of the fact they're so good. So you could go up by just doing your due diligence,
straight up,
and your homework.
Heck, the Bucky Irving, I picked him third pick in that draft, or third round. Sorry, third round in that draft. Yes. And with that, I was able to the next offseason go, you know what? I don't know if he's the guy that's going to be able to do this over a long period of time. Like, he was so explosive that rookie year and that year that he came out. I could see the writing on the wall that he would maybe be a guy like James Robinson or something that has one of those 1 or 2 big years where they're a top 10, top 15 guy. And that's kind of it. And then they phase out of the league. And I was willing to take that risk, take that value that I got in the third round of that draft and trade Bucky Irving into Chris Olave, who last season helped me win the championship in back-to-back years. So that's always something you got to be able to take the value that you get in late drafts when you find them, and got to be willing to move on when you think
someone is past their
even then, just willing to capitalize on that value as well. Thank you guys, though. I appreciate everybody for being here. We are the Double Down Sports Podcast and Network. Make sure to double down on your takes and your lays today. If you have any, good luck to everybody, and good luck in your off seasons. We shall see you. Good luck in your draft if it's coming up.
Don't give up.
And make sure to double down. Peace.
Peace.